Chapter 830. After setting up the celestial eradication sword formation in the imperial capital, Fang Xinjian brought the two mage kings down and saw Charlie directing a group of apprentices into the imperial capital. It seemed that they were people brought in from other regions. Seeing Fang Xinjian land, Charlie immediately put aside his matters and went up to him, saying respectfully, "Imperial Preceptor, do you have any instructions?" Fang Xinjian asked casually, "Is there any news of the second prince?" Initially, no one knew where the second prince had gone into seclusion for a long time. However, everyone thought that the second prince would definitely rush over after finding out that the matter in the imperial capital had spread throughout the world. However, by the looks of it, things did not seem to be that simple. Charlie shook his head and said, "There's no news yet." Fang Xinjian frowned slightly. The second prince had yet to appear. Even with his sudden inspiration, he was unable to sense the second prince's existence. This meant that it was very likely that the second prince was no longer in Miracle World. Is he striving for the 9-tiered heavens? With the second prince's aptitude at the 10th tier of the mystical prince, his cultivation path should be very smooth. The possibility of him striving for the 9-tiered heavens was very high. Since that was the case, Fang Xinjian gave up on the thought of continuing his search. With a flash, he brought the Black Mage King and Gold Mage King with him, and arrived at the newly built palace. The newly built palace was not like how it had been in the past, floating in the sky. Instead, it was built right in the center of the imperial capital. Everything was made of dark-colored marble. It did not look luxurious, but it was filled with a simple, majestic, and dignified aura. Right now, Charlot was listening excitedly to the reports of his subordinate. The fourth prince sat next to him, both supervising and assisting. Seeing Fang Xinjian suddenly appear, everyone present was about to greet him when he waved his hand to dismiss them. "Master!" Charlot looked at Fang Xinjian, packing his luggage seriously. However, he was now much more well-behaved than before. He realized that this master of his seemed to be different from what he remembered. Not only was there a hint of coldness in the way he did things, but the rules were also extremely strict, not allowing him to overstep his boundaries. Fang Xinjian nodded slightly, looked at the fourth prince, and said, "I'll be leaving for a few days. I'll leave the imperial capital to you." As he said that, he tapped out with a finger, and there seemed to be a stream of sword light piercing through space, entering the fourth prince's mind. "I've set up a sword formation in the imperial capital. It's enough to deal with most divine-level experts. This is the method to control the sword formation. Remember it carefully." The fourth prince nodded, looked at Fang Xinjian, and said, "Xinjian, are the two mage kings going as well? We've received intelligence that both the Plains Royal Court and the Sand Countries tribes have been making a series of unusual movements recently. I'm afraid that they're planning to take advantage of the situation to attack." Seeing the worry in his eyes, Fang Xinjian said, "Don't worry. If the sword formation can't withstand it, I'll sense it immediately. With my current speed, it'll only take me a few thoughts to rush back. You don't have to worry." After saying that, he gave some instructions for gathering information and resources, such as the forging of the fourth divine sword of his celestial eradication sword formation. He then left with the two mage kings. While Fang Xinjian was staying in Miracle World, various changes had taken place on Earth. On Earth, on an archipelago in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, right now, the sea within a range of several hundred kilometers had been sealed off, and a large number of soldiers and Magic Prince warriors were patrolling around the island. In the command center in the middle of the island, over 10 high-ranking officials of the Earth's Federation were looking nervously at the screen before them. Previously, due to Fang Xinjian's existence, he had single-handedly killed 3 divine-level experts on Earth. He then defeated many of the Earth's Federation's military forces and swept through the world, becoming the strongest expert on Earth. After this operation, the Fang clan's status also rose. Not only did they hold an important position in the Federation, but their influence also expanded rapidly. Fang Xinjian's second uncle, the current head of the Fang clan, Fang Yuehe, had also become one of the highest rulers in the Earth's Federation. However, after Fang Qian had come once and brought away a large number of scientists, Fang Xinjian had never contacted Earth again. With the discovery of the words on the moon, Earth had also achieved a new breakthrough in terms of technology. Moreover, having lost contact with the two divine-level experts, Tiandao and Titan, the Mage Association had also cut off contact with them. The Earth's Federation no longer placed their attention on Miracle World and instead focused on achieving breakthroughs in technology. It was because, similar to the information that Fang Xinjian had obtained from the parallel world, the Earth's Federation had also obtained a large amount of technological information that surpassed Earth's standards from the back of the moon. The experiment this time around was the time to verify the result. Half an hour later, a huge fireball soared into the sky, and a Category 12 typhoon came sweeping over. It even brought up tsunamis that were 2 to 3 meters tall, gushing out in all directions. The battleships that were several tens of kilometers away kept on bobbing up and down under the impact of the tempest and tsunamis. It was as if they had entered a tempest. Piercing light shone over, and almost no one could look at it directly. Right now, a nuclear explosion experiment was being carried out on the archipelago in the Pacific Ocean. It was only after 40 minutes that the huge fireball almost dissipated. However, the island where the nuclear bomb had been detonated had turned into a land of death. Almost everything above the horizon had been completely destroyed. A large number of armored vehicles, city walls, and fighter aircrafts that had been used to compare their destructive prowess had been crushed into pieces of scrap metal by the high temperature and shock wave. At the very center of the nuclear explosion, a 3-meter-tall metallic human figure stood there calmly. The metal humanoid's entire body was silver, and the entire surface of the metal was like a mirror. It seemed to perfectly reflect the scenery around it, as if it was covered by a mirror. Its streamlined body gave off a sci-fi vibe. The metallic human figure floated slightly in midair, but there were no signs of damage from the nuclear bomb on its body. After another half an hour, Magic Prince warriors wearing exoskeleton armors went up to collect information. In the command center, everyone held their breaths and focused, waiting for the result. There's no damage on the surface of the battle armor. There's no abnormality in the power system. There's no abnormality in the force field generator. There's no abnormality in the physical structure. There's no abnormality. There's no abnormality. The entire impasse armor didn't suffer any damage from the 75 megaton nuclear explosion. The energy depletion is less than 0.0001%. Hearing this reply, everyone cheered. The Caucasian man in the lead also revealed a hint of joy. Great. With this impasse armor, we finally have the power to talk to those divine-level experts in Miracle World. This person was the Thunder Monarch, one of the 5 divine-level experts on Earth back then. He was the head of the Ford clan, who specialized in science and technology. Back then, he had submitted to Fang Xinjian and barely managed to keep his life. Thereafter, after obtaining the relics on the moon, he worked hard and used all of his energy to develop this impasse armor. With this impasse armor, as long as we produce 80 to 100 of them, even those divine-level experts in Miracle World will probably find it hard to fend them off. Chapter 831. When the Thunder Monarch saw the impasse armor on the screen, he revealed a proud expression. He had built this mecha based on the super-technological information on the moon's ruins. He had created a force field generator and changed the range and direction of electromagnetic force and strong force to create a super armor. Great power bestowed him with an almost invincible defense. His surface had an absolute splendor, reflecting all light waves and electromagnetic waves. Of course, it also encompassed his martial will. The strong force was able to pull the atomic nuclei together, making the length of the material unimaginable. Not only was the nuclear bomb unable to harm it, but even the various electromagnetic cannons, laser cannons, sonic weapons, and ultra-low temperature weapons that had been experimented on before were useless. Even the Thunder Monarch himself would not be able to break through this armor head-on. Moreover, the advanced application of electromagnetic force gave him powerful attack power. The plasma cannons fired from the surface of its body could shatter all known physical structures on Earth. The electromagnetic engine in his body could even convert the electric current and magnetic fields into all kinds of output without any damage. The current upper limit was to lift 1/10 of Mount Tai, which was equivalent to a continuous thrust output of more than 1 billion tons. Also, the geomagnetic energy furnace in his body could directly extract energy from the Earth's magnetic field, possessing an almost inexhaustible energy source. With just these 3 points alone, the Thunder Monarch believed that there were probably not many divine-level experts in Miracle World who would be a match for this mecha. According to their combat power assessment, the combat power displayed by the impasse armor was almost 10 times more than the combat power displayed by Fang Xinjian on Earth in the past. It could be said that after creating this impasse armor, the Thunder Monarch was confident that he could defeat any expert on Earth. Even if Fang Xinjian comes over now, I'm afraid he won't be a match for the impasse armor. The Thunder Monarch thought to himself, however, fighting on Earth would be too destructive, and the damage to Earth would be too great. Fighting on Earth would naturally not be as effective as fighting in Miracle World. After all, when one's battle prowess reached such a level, each and every one of their actions would cause a great disaster. If they were to fight on Earth, it was unknown how many countries and citizens would die. The losses would be uncountable. However, if they were to fight in Miracle World, the people on Earth would not have any reservations. However, the ether particle density in Miracle World was extremely high, and all sorts of substances were formed in the form of physical particles. Most of the technological products from Earth would not be able to function normally there. This was the next problem that the Thunder Monarch had to overcome. Gino from the Ford clan was a level 29 Magic Prince warrior, the younger brother of the Thunder Monarch, and also a famous professor in the physics world. He said, "Brother, should we take action against the Fang family?" "That's right. That monkey Fang Yueha has been relying on Fang Xinjian's influence to become increasingly arrogant and despotic, swallowing up a large amount of the Federation's industries. Those disciples of the Fang clan are the same. They don't respect our Ford clan at all. With the impasse armor, even if Fang Xinjian returns, he won't be a match for us. It's time to teach the Fang family a lesson." The Thunder Monarch looked at the agitated crowd and nodded to himself. Ever since he had submitted to Fang Xinjian, the Ford clan's status had plummeted. Before the Fang clan and Fang Yueha, they were unable to raise their heads at all. Not to mention the fact that he, a divine-level expert, had surrendered to Fang Xinjian in order to live. Countless people were secretly mocking him behind his back. Although he could tolerate it, it didn't mean that he wasn't angry. Moreover, these setbacks had caused the Ford clan's morale to plummet. Many of the younger members of the Ford clan had lost their past glory and fighting spirit. However, at the thought of Fang Xinjian's means, the Thunder Monarch shook his head and said, "That's not appropriate. Fang Xinjian has stepped into the demigod realm in less than 3 years and even killed a divine-level expert with the power of a demigod. His talent isn't something that can be measured with common sense. Moreover, several months have passed. We don't know how much his abilities have improved. Although the current impasse armor is several times stronger than Fang Xinjian's battle prowess back then, before we have complete confidence, it's not appropriate to take action immediately." "Then what should we do?" the Ford clan's Gino said, feeling dissatisfied. "Are we supposed to just let that group of monkeys from the Fang clan continue to be arrogant?" The strong interaction material on the surface of the impasse armor is hard to break even under the pressure from the Earth's core. Fang Xinjian is definitely not a match for them. Don't be anxious. The Thunder Monarch smiled and said, "The Mage Association has cut off all contact with us. We're already too far behind in terms of the news from Miracle World." As a demigod expert, Fang Xinjian might have already attained a breakthrough to the divine level. With his personality, he probably won't be too well behaved in Miracle World. If we send someone over now, we'll definitely be able to find out more about him and see how strong he has become. Gino still felt dissatisfied and said, "Then are we going to let the Fang clan off just like that?" Fang clan. The Thunder Monarch's eyes narrowed slightly as he said, "Inform Tiandao and Medici as well. They've been suppressed by the Fang clan to the point where they can't even breathe. This time around, we'll put pressure on them together and see if Fang Xinjian has left any hidden trump cards for the Fang clan." Out of the 5 great clans on Earth, the Fang clan was currently prospering. Back then, the Onassis clan, which was a black clan, had been suppressed by Fang Xinjian to the point where they were almost wiped out. The remaining Ford, Tiandao, and Medici were holding on bitterly. There was no need to mention their complaints toward the Fang clan. Although the Thunder Monarch was extremely confident in the impasse armor, he was still careful and left some leeway. He planned to test the Fang clan step by step and only make his move when he was certain that victory was within his grasp. Also, speed up the production and improvement of the impasse armor. Don't stop while improving it. The more armors we have, the higher our chances of victory will be. As for the Fang clan, let them continue to be arrogant for now. Hearing this, many of the Ford clan's upper echelon revealed vicious, expectant, and impatient gazes. However, just then, an assistant suddenly dashed in, looked at the Thunder Monarch, and said, "Sir, the Fang clan is requesting for help." The Thunder Monarch was slightly stunned. Requesting for help? Half an hour earlier, in the sky above Demonic City, a flash of light suddenly appeared 10,000 meters up in the sky. The flash of light changed slightly and condensed into a young man. The young man had black hair and black eyes. He appeared very innocent, and he exuded a leisurely and natural aura. He looked exactly the same as Tiandao, who was one of the original 5 divine-level experts on Earth. However, Tiandao had stolen the Crystal of Time that the Gold Mage King had left behind and was later killed by Fang Xinjian. Why would he appear here? The young man's gaze swept across Demonic City, which was under his feet. The Demon King's gaze flickered slightly, and he suddenly smiled. Interesting. To think that the parallel world this time around has arrived here? Hints of strange gleams flashed in his eyes. It was as if the heavenly laws and all living things in the universe were circulating within them. My test this time around will be imprinted in that place. With that, his body flashed slightly, and he disappeared completely. Chapter 832. An innocent-looking young man walked on the streets of Demonic City. As he looked at the heavy traffic before him, a hint of nostalgia appeared on his face. Demonic City. How long has it been since I last came back? Although the current Tiandao looked extremely similar to the Tiandao whom Fang Xinjian had killed, they were not completely the same person. It was because he was Tiandao from another parallel world. In that world, not only had he snatched away the Crystal of Time, but he had also killed the Astral Ancestor and the Blue Sacred Moonlight, snatching away their cultivation manuals. The Crystal of Time had the ability to stop time for 1 second upon encountering danger. Although the cooldown time was also 1 second, it was equivalent to being able to stop time for 1 second every second that passed. Tiandao made use of this to cultivate, constantly putting himself in danger. It was equivalent to constantly activating the Crystal of Time's ability, allowing him to have twice the amount of time to cultivate compared to ordinary people. However, the most important thing was that, in that world, he had the world's top black magic talent. The speed at which he picked up the metal element black magic was so fast that even he himself found it terrifying. Moreover, he also had the crystal of time and cultivated black magic that controlled time. As his cultivation continued to deepen, he had more and more time that surpassed that of ordinary people. The amount of time he spent cultivating was longer than others, and his cultivation talent was better than others. This made Tiandao increasingly unstoppable. Thereafter, he launched a sneak attack on the fifth prince, obtained several tens of superior martial arts, attacked the 7 great clans, and grasped the cultivation methods of 7 divine-level experts. He then defeated the Gold Mage King and forced the Black Mage King to retreat. He led the Mage Association's Gold, Black, and Red faction mages and became an overlord in Miracle World. This time around, he had come to this parallel world that was extremely similar to the one he came from in order to attain Tier 6 of the divine level and challenge the 9-tiered heavens. "Mister, can I trouble you not to stand on the road?" A traffic policeman came before Tiandao, pointed at the blocked road, and spoke to Tiandao impatiently. "The road? Sorry." Tiandao smiled and then blew gently in the direction of the road. At the next moment, the entire road was torn apart by strong gales, and violent shock waves shot out over 10 kilometers away. Not only did they split half of the city into 2, but they also destroyed countless streets. More than 10 buildings slowly collapsed amidst the screams of countless people, setting off smoke, fire, and explosions that filled the sky. The originally blocked roads had long since been turned into ruins. As for the vehicles, most of them were directly swept out of the sky by the strong winds that were blown up by the heavenly Tao. They had already been distorted in mid-air by the shock waves and had now become pieces of scrap metal, falling toward the ground. Looking at the traffic police who had been scared stiff, Tiandao shrugged and said, "There's no more traffic now, right?" After patting the traffic policeman on the shoulder, Tiandao continued walking in his original direction. The heavenly axiom was already very familiar with the operations of the parallel worlds of the heavenly palace. In such a parallel world, it might still be dangerous for other experts of the same level, but for a genius among geniuses like him, who could fight beyond his level, the parallel world that the heavenly palace had projected was more than enough for him to crush. It was because this was originally meant for Tier 5 divine level experts. However, his strength had already far surpassed that of ordinary Tier 5 divine level experts. This was especially so when he came from Earth. The worlds he went to were all parallel worlds of Earth, and the power contained in those worlds was usually even weaker. Therefore, a place that was a test for ordinary Tier 5 divine level experts could only be a leisurely stroll for him. Moreover, the black magic that he grasped was from the gold-robed faction. He borrowed the evil god's powers to enjoy the convenience of controlling time in advance. This was what allowed him to act without any restraint. Based on his experience, the fastest way to clear the trial was to display his powers without any restraints, getting the various major influences on Earth to give up on resisting. He would then unify the resources of the entire parallel world to help him complete what he wanted to do. As for what he wanted to do, he only needed to follow the guidance of his sudden inspiration. Almost less than half a minute after Tiandao attacked Demonic City, several tens of streams of light soared up into the sky, arriving above his head and surrounding him. Tiandao stroked his chin and said, "Special forces?" They were Magic Prince warriors who wore exoskeleton armors. When the Magic Prince warrior in the lead saw the young man before him, he was taken by surprise. "Lord Tiandao, you're back?" However, Tiandao snickered. With a palm strike across space, he had already crushed several tens of warriors. "Do I exist in this parallel Earth as well? Although they all look very similar, this isn't my world after all. Moreover, if I don't kill a few batches of people, how will you know what I'm capable of and be willing to submit to me?" Therefore, Tiandao walked slowly toward the Fong clan's manor. Many batches of Magic Prince warriors came up to stop him. There were even robot troops and supersonic fighter aircrafts, turning the entire demonic city into a battlefield. However, the fighter aircrafts were crushed across space, the robot troops were crushed into dust by an explosive bellow, and the Magic Prince warriors were crushed into dust like flies by Tiandao. Before this Tier 5 divine level expert, the reinforcements that had rushed over from Demonic City were completely helpless. Damn it! Has Tiandao gone crazy? Why is he attacking us in Demonic City? This won't do. We can't use large-scale destructive weapons in Demonic City. We won't be able to deal with him at all. Activate the new weapons. The new weapons to deal with these divine-level experts. Ever since Fang Xinjian single-handedly swept through the entire world and an army of several million could do nothing about him, Earth's military started to think of ways and expend countless resources to develop all sorts of weapons that targeted him. This was especially after they obtained the information from the moon's relic. The Thunder Monarch was not the only one who had improved. Therefore, Tiandao, who was walking on the streets, suddenly stopped in his tracks. Through his sudden inspiration, he actually felt a sense of danger. To think that there's someone on Earth who can give me such a sense of danger? What's their background? At the next moment, he suddenly looked toward the sky. Under his astonished gaze, a crimson light flashed for a moment. At the next moment, a light pillar completely encompassed his location. Then a series of explosions took place with him as the center, encompassing a range of 100 meters. This is the latest model of plasma cannon. It restrains plasma clouds into rays, creating high-energy particles that have a high temperature of several 100,000 degrees Celsius and fly at sublight speed. Moreover, before the attack, a large number of electron beams were used to soften the atmosphere, causing the energy of this cannon to not be weakened by the atmosphere. Being struck by this attack head-on is equivalent to being subjected to the sun's internal environment for a short period of time. Even Fang Xinjian probably won't be able to survive. This is the latest weapon that we've developed based on the information from the moon's relic. It's meant for divine-level experts. Although the area of destruction isn't very wide, the destructive prowess per unit area far surpasses that of a nuclear missile. Basically, ever since the Great Battle on Earth, Earth's military forces had been treating Fang Xinjian as an imaginary enemy. All of their weapon development was aimed at killing Fang Xinjian. Looking at Fang Xinjian's silhouette disappearing into the plasma, everyone present heaved a sigh of relief. We've succeeded. We've finally gotten a weapon that can kill divine-level experts. Chapter 833. In the command center of the Earth's military, there were sounds of celebration. Over 100 commanding officers and staff cheered. Xia Yan, the Planetary Defense's commander-in-chief, also let out a sigh of relief. Ever since the Earth's Federation's Planetary Defense Department was almost wiped out by Fang Xinjian, they had recruited the elites from the various countries on Earth's military, police, and governments to form a new Planetary Defense Department. They were used to prepare for battles against imaginary enemies like divine-level experts. To think that Tiandao would dare to come back? Thankfully, the military managed to develop a new type of weapon with the help of the moon's relic. Xia Yan was secretly astonished as he looked at the effect of the attack, which could even turn the ground into dust. The prowess of this plasma cannon is too astonishing. It should have been a weapon used on spaceships. If it wasn't because of the information from the moon's relics, Earth would probably need many more years to develop it. Based on our initial estimations, the battle prowess that Fang Xinjian displayed was about 1.5 times that of Li Shuanghua, the despot, the Thunder Monarch, and the others. Although Tiandao is strong, he is at most on par with Fang Xinjian. But if even he died to this plasma cannon, then it'll probably be hard for Fang Xinjian to fend it off as well. Moreover, this plasma cannon is easy to control. The area of effect is small and there's no pollution. It's perfect to use it to kill divine-level experts. However, just then, another alarm rang out. Strong magnetic field reaction detected. Extremely high heat energy has been generated at the center of the explosion. Send the real-time image over. On the huge screen, the ruins from the explosion grew bigger as the camera panned over. Right now, at the center of the explosion, it was as if time was flowing in reverse. The scenes kept on moving backward, and in the blink of an eye, Tiandao appeared once again. He stood steadily on the spot, seemingly without any signs of injury. Level 12 Black Magic Blessings of the Time King. The Gold Mage King had once used this to bless his many disciples and grand disciples, allowing them to return their bodies to an undamaged state. It was an unrivaled life-saving technique for Gold Faction black magic. Everyone in the command center who saw this scene was dumbfounded. Tiandao had already raised his head to look at the sky. It was as if he had pierced through layers of void space and atmosphere, seeing the space station in outer space where the plasma cannon had been fired. At the next moment, Tiandao's body flickered and then disappeared completely. This is bad. Xia Yan's heart skipped a beat. He immediately commanded, "Be careful of the space station. He's about to attack the plasma cannon. Fire again immediately." But before he could finish his order, his assistant exclaimed, "The space station is under attack. We've lost contact with it." "Impossible," Xia Yan said in disbelief. "That's 400 kilometers above the ground. How long has it been?" According to the computer's calculations, the time difference between the resurrection of Heavenly Axiom and the loss of contact with the space station was only 0.013 seconds, traversing 400 kilometers in 0.013 seconds? A speed of 25,000 kilometers per second? How is this possible? This guy is even faster than Fang Xinjian. The atmosphere wasn't affected. It's not an ordinary teleportation method. Right now, Earth's military forces were still unaware that the divine-level experts in Miracle World were able to move at akin to light speed from the second tier of the divine level onward. As far as they were concerned, Heaven Dao's current speed was simply inconceivable. However, Earth's reaction was also very fast. In less than 1/100th of a second after Tiandao destroyed the plasma cannon, the two nearby space stations had locked onto him at the same time. Under the control of the supercomputer, two streams of crimson-red light pillars crossed each other, forming a huge bright red cross that completely encompassed the location where Tiandao was at. There was no interference from the atmospheric layer in outer space, and the plasma cannon did not have the side effect of the atmospheric layer's energy attenuation. Right now, it could unleash a high power without any reservations, and its prowess was over 10 times that of the first attack. However, it was not so easy to hit the target this time around. Earlier on, Tiandao had only wanted to test the prowess of this attack, which was why he had allowed the plasma cannon to hit the target. This time around, he had instantly retreated during the 1-second time stop that the Crystal of Time had activated. Interesting. The prowess of this weapon is not inferior to an attack from a Tier 5 divine-level expert at the pinnacle of the microscopic realm. It also involves the powers of the microscopic world. Has Earth's technology in the microscopic domain already reached such a level? Looking at the blood-red cross that was several tens of kilometers away, the corners of Tiandao's lips curled up into a hint of a smile. At the next moment, two huge sparks flashed in outer space, as if fireworks had exploded. "We've lost contact with space stations 13 and 15. The other party's speed is too fast." Tiandao's movements at akin to light speed far surpassed the reaction speed of the people in the command room. They could only rely on the supercomputer's automatic defense mechanism to aim and shoot. However, to Tiandao, who possessed the blessings of the Time King and the Crystal of Time, such rigid and patterned attacks were meaningless. Space stations kept on exploding in outer space, and it was as if huge fireworks were flashing incessantly in the sky. In less than a minute, all 12 plasma cannons that had been set up in orbit around Earth had lost contact. The countenances of everyone in the command room were grim. How can Tiandao be so much stronger than before? Such maneuverability and destructive prowess are already stronger than Fang Xinjian's. Why is he attacking us? Contact the Tiandao clan immediately. Xia Yan's countenance was extremely grim as he asked, "Where is he?" "The satellites are searching. He seems to have left outer space and returned to the atmosphere. He has appeared at the Pacific Ocean base." Golden light flashed occasionally in the sky above Earth. With Tiandao's maneuverability that was akin to light speed, the entire Earth was like his back garden to him. 5 minutes later, Earth's Pacific Ocean military base was wiped out. 10 minutes later, Japan Island's military base was burned into ashes. 20 minutes later, the North Pacific Ocean Fleet was completely wiped out. Then the Atlantic Ocean base, the Indian Ocean base, the Western Asia base, the South Pole base. In less than an hour, over 15 aircraft carriers had sunk, over 1,000 fighter aircrafts had been destroyed, over 100,000 soldiers had died, and over 500,000 battle robots had been wiped out. Tiandao is too powerful. The strength he is displaying now has already surpassed that of Fang Xinjian. Regardless of whether it's his destructive prowess, maneuverability, or defensive prowess, he is 10 times stronger than Fang Xinjian. Our military forces and new weapons are no match for him at all. In a short hour, Earth's military forces were beaten up to the point where they could not retaliate at all. It could be said that this 1 hour was like a nightmare to everyone in the command room. Tiandao had single-handedly beaten up almost the entire Earth's Federation into submission. They should be convinced now. They'll probably come looking for me to give in very soon. After doing all this, he returned to Demonic City as if nothing had happened and arrived at the Fang clan's courtyard. Based on the sudden inspiration's senses, this was the opportunity for him to clear the trial. Looking at the Fang clan's courtyard, Tiandao's eyes narrowed slightly and he thought, "Is this the Fang clan's courtyard in this world? If it's the Fang clan, only Fang Xinjian will be able to take a few moves from me. I wonder if there are any outstanding characters in this world's Fang clan." Chapter 834. Tiandao recalled that in the previous world, the strongest expert in the Fang clan had been Fang Xinjian. Even Tiandao admired Fang Xinjian's talent and had even wanted to recruit him. However, in the end, Fang Xinjian had been stubborn and had taken 3 of his attacks head-on before being killed by his martial will. A hint of curiosity flashed in Tiandao's eyes. "I wonder if there are any Fang Xinjian in this world, and how many attacks he can take from me." Right now, 99% of the people in the Fang clan had retreated, leaving behind only 100 mechanical warriors clad in golden armor and emitting a faint blue glow standing in the courtyard. Of course, it was not just the military and the Thunder Monarch's Ford clan who had created new weapons based on the discovery of the moon's relic. The Fang clan had also gained a large piece of meat from this harvest. The Divinity Combat Robot was a high-tech semi-intelligent robot which the Fang clan had invested several trillion yuan into. Each of these robots used the most advanced plasma technology. They could maintain a protective layer of dense plasma on the surface of their bodies, which could defend against the attacks of low-yield nuclear missiles. Ordinary firearms would not be able to break through their plasma protective layer. They also had plasma beam converters in their bodies, which could control plasma clumps with a high temperature of 100,000 degrees Celsius to form all sorts of weapons. These were warriors that were specially developed to deal with individual experts. Right now, Fang Yueha had pulled all of them to the Fang clan in order to deal with the opponent who had suddenly appeared. Beside him was the Ford clan's Thunder Monarch. Fang Yueha smiled and said, "Thunder Monarch, what do you think of the Fang clan's newly developed Divinity Combat Robot?" The Thunder Monarch pondered for a moment and said, "They have both offense and defense. Probably 10 divinity combat robots will be able to come to a draw with a divine-level expert. But their mobility doesn't seem to be good? They can't fly? Simultaneously, he compared the divinity combat robots with his impasse gear, and a hint of disdain flashed in the depths of his eyes. These divinity combat robots could be said to be much more powerful than the human armaments in the past. However, when compared to the impasse gear, they were on a completely different level. After all, the Thunder Monarch had personally led the team to develop the impasse gear. As a divine-level expert who could even observe the microscopic world, the Thunder Monarch, who had almost endless energy, had an advantage over ordinary people in terms of scientific research. Moreover, the Ford clan specialized in science and technology, and the Thunder Monarch had even developed individual armors in the past. Fang Yuehe let out a sigh and said, "It's true." Therefore, although these divinity fighters have strong attacks and defenses, they are more suited for defense and not offense. At the next moment, his countenance turned grim. Tiandao's attack this time around far exceeds what was recorded in the information. It seems that his cultivation in Miracle World has been very effective. I've just received news that he's destroyed all 12 of the Federation's latest plasma cannons. Clans Yuehe. The Thunder Monarch smiled and said, "Those fellows in the military are still stuck to their old ways of thinking. They think that it's enough to have strong destructive power, high speed, and long range. To think that they developed a space-based cannon in order to deal with deity-level expert. How foolish." Yuehe had the clan's military, saying that the military Yuehe gear with the army. In his opinion, the war had entered a new era, an era where quality was more important than quantity. The world to individual experts in. He to the future, Fang Marshall to the combat robots to Yuan. Fang had. Fang to. Fang. On, he Xinjiang, Fang, he. Fang, the Fang Earth had. On to. Fang, Earth. On. Fang on, Fang. When. Earth, Fang. When. Since when did Earth possess such technology? Seeing Tiandao's sudden appearance, both Fang Yuehe and the Thunder Monarch's countenances turned grim. Fang Yuehe said, "Thunder Monarch, are you crazy? To think that one of the 5 divine-level experts on Earth would attack civilians and the military. Do you know that you and your clan are finished?" Tiandao smiled. In the parallel world he was in, Fang Yuehe and the Thunder Monarch were not famous. Therefore, he did not know the two of them and could not be bothered to say anything. He stretched out his hand, and a stream of golden light rose from his body, turning into a huge golden palm that struck out. The huge palm covered the entire courtyard, pressing down toward the Thunder Monarch, Fang Yuehe, and the 100 divinity combat robots. The ferocious power instantly lashed out and exploded the air. Wherever the golden palm passed by, waves of colorful shock waves would descend from the sky. They were countless explosive reactions in the microscopic world. The prowess of this casual palm strike from Tiandao was almost equivalent to Alexander's full power attack. The entire Fang clan's courtyard seemed to have been turned into dust by the explosive air currents at almost the same instant this palm strike came crashing down. At the appearance of this palm, the countenances of the 2 divinity combat robots changed drastically. This was especially so for Fang Yuehe, who had yet to attain the divine level. He felt the explosive air pressure and his brain was concussed. His spine was tempered, and the blood throughout his body seemed to be seething. It was as if he was going to explode and die at the very next moment. However, 2 of the divinity combat robots next to him quickly split up, and the blue plasma shield on the surface of their bodies encompassed Fang Yuehe. The dense plasma gathered together, forming an astonishing defensive shield and withstanding the surging air currents and explosions. Fang Yuehe looked at the huge palm that was descending slowly from the sky with a pale face and bellowed, "Kill him!" The remaining 98 Divinity combat robots seemed to have woken up in an instant. Blue light flashed in their eyes as they all looked in Tiandao's direction. Boom! The 98 Divinity combat robots moved in unison, as if they were one person. They took a step forward at the same time, and the ground within a range of several thousand meters instantly shattered. The shattered rocks shot out in all directions like bullets from a shotgun. All of the Divinity combat robots were encompassed by blue plasma shields, and the shock waves and explosions from the huge palm were as useless as a breeze to them. Under the effects of the plasma shields, they would even be able to fend off attacks at the microscopic level. The 98 Divinity combat robots dashed up to Tiandao almost at the same time. All of them put out their right hands at the same time, and a 1-meter-long blue light sword darted out from their palms. They were plasma-slicing light swords that had a high temperature of 100,000 degrees Celsius, and the microscopic particles in them kept on moving to and fro at sublight speed. Such a terrifying technological creation was almost equivalent to a microscopic-level sword technique attack. Moreover, there were a total of 98 such light swords. They could dismember a Tier 2 or even 3 divine-level expert on the spot. However, Tiandao merely smiled when faced with the 98 light swords that were gushing toward him. With a tap of his finger, he gently blocked one of the light swords. The light swords got closer and closer to his finger, but their speed also got increasingly slower. In the end, they were like snails crawling, unable to really come into contact with Tiandao's finger. Level 9 Black Magic, Gracefulness of Time, was activated. This magic was even more terrifying in Tiandao's hands. All of the Divinity combat robots within a range of 100 meters could only move at a speed of 1 centimeter per second. Before Tiandao, they were wriggling like lambs waiting to be slaughtered. Then Tiandao pulled out his hands, and a stream of chaotic light blade appeared in his palms. Level 13 Black Magic, Blade of Time. This black magic, which could slash off the enemy's lifespan, was casually swept across the bodies of the many Divinity combat robots, increasing the lifespan of all the Divinity combat robots. The Divinity combat robots had undoubtedly used the best technology and materials on Earth. However, the weakness of the machines was that many of their components were not as sturdy as the plasma shield. Moreover, many of their critical components were easily damaged and needed frequent maintenance and replacement. As the blade of time sliced through them, their exoskeleton armor and plasma shields remained undamaged. However, a large number of their critical components, power engines, cooling systems, and many other components malfunctioned. At the next moment, the light in the eyes of the 98 Divinity combat robots was extinguished, and their plasma shields dissipated as well. Chapter 835. In a battle against divine-level experts of the same level, mages would usually have the upper hand. It was because black magic had given them powers that surpassed what they could possess at their current level. This situation would only change if they encountered people like Fang Xingjian, who were immune to black magic, existences from beyond dimensions like the evil god tribe's warriors, or guardian kings who possessed divine art. To earthlings who had just grasped some advanced technology, Tiandao, who had grasped intermediate to high-level metal faction black magic, was also a nightmarish existence. Damn it! Why is his black magic so powerful? The diabolic energy that mages can use on Earth should be very little. There must be a tremendous amount of diabolic energy stored in his body. Many thoughts flashed through Fang Yuehe's mind. Just as he was thinking about what to do, a stream of electricity flashed in void space. Tiandao seemed to have been struck by an unknown and tremendous force in that instant, and he was sent flying like a baseball. In the blink of an eye, he smashed through over 10 buildings, leaving behind a cloud of dust as he fell into a stretch of ruins. Rumble. Buildings collapsed one after another, causing a series of screams to ring out in Demonic City. Fang Yuehe looked at the Thunder Monarch in astonishment. The Thunder Monarch had unknowingly been covered by a layer of mirror-like metal. The Thunder Monarch put on the impasse armor, and his voice rang out in Fang Yuehe's mind. "Wait a moment. I'll deal with him right away." At the next moment, the impasse armor turned into a silver afterimage and appeared in the sky above the ruins. A loud rumble rang out. Crushed rocks that were like small hills and countless pieces of reinforced concrete soared into the sky. They exploded and scattered, revealing Tiandao who had been buried underneath. Tiandao's marshal will scan the impasse armor, but he revealed a puzzled expression. "What the hell is this?" The surface of the impasse armor was absolutely smooth after being pulled by powerful forces. Even his martial will was reflected, and he was unable to detect the situation inside. At the next moment, the Thunder Monarch struck out with his palm once again, and a violent electromagnetic force field took effect on Tiandao's body from several hundred meters away, encompassing every single cell in his body. It was as if he had been struck by a small planet. Tiandao was instantly sent flying over 10 kilometers away, arriving at the surface of the sea in the east of Demonic City. He dragged out a long wave on the surface of the sea, sending the seawater several tens of meters high into the air before coming to a stop with great difficulty. Force field attack? Even with the Crystal of Time's time stop state, you won't be able to dodge it. And in terms of pure strength, this guy is actually stronger than me. The impasse armor directly extracted the Earth's magnetic field energy and transformed it into an electromagnetic force field to attack. The power it contained exceeded 1 billion tons, and this was a power that exceeded the imagination of ordinary people. It was equivalent to lifting thousands of skyscrapers or 1,000 or 2,000 aircraft carriers in one go. This meant that as long as the Thunder Monarch was willing, the Thunder Monarch, who was wearing the impasse armor, could flatten the entire demonic city within a second. Seeing Tiandao land on the sea, the Thunder Monarch slowly flew over. "Heaven's will, I don't know where you got the increase in strength from. In the past, this kind of strength would be enough for you to dominate Earth. But now, you've already fallen behind." As the Thunder Monarch spoke, he slapped out his palm once again. As electric light flashed in void space, an invisible barrier collided against Tiandao. The force field unleashed a power of several 100 million tons, swatting Tiandao down several thousand meters into the sea like he was swatting a fly. After receiving 3 consecutive heavy blows, a large area of cracks appeared on Tiandao's conjured physique. He looked like a piece of glass that would shatter at any moment. He smiled coldly and looked toward the sky. "You're courting death." In the command center, everyone watched as the Thunder Monarch beat up Tiandao like he was his son, and they all cheered. He's succeeded. Tiandao isn't a match for the Thunder Monarch. What armor is this? It's amazing. There's an intense disturbance in the global magnetic field. Has this armor triggered a magnetic storm phenomenon? How terrifying is this power? Xia Yan looked at the many scenes on the battlefield with a grim countenance. He had not expected the Thunder Monarch to have developed such a terrifying personal armor. If the Thunder Monarch were to defeat Tiandao, then he would become the undisputed overlord of the entire Earth. However, Xia Yan was not unhappy at all. On the contrary, he became excited. Both Fang Xinjian and Tiandao are still walking on the ancient cultivation path of Miracle World. However, only the Thunder Monarch, who relies on our technology to develop power, is the most suitable for humans. This armor might represent the beginning of humans marching into Miracle World, or even ruling over it. Fang Yuehe was also connected to the Fang clan's private satellite and saw the scene of the Thunder Monarch bashing up Tiandao. To think that the Ford clan has hidden themselves so deeply? Seeing the powerful battle prowess displayed by the impasse armor, Fang Yuehe's heart sank. He had wanted to use the divinity combatants to put the divine-level expert in his place. However, he had not expected that the Thunder Monarch was even more profound than he had imagined. To think that the Thunder Monarch had unknowingly developed such an astonishing weapon. With that, the power and influence he had accumulated with Fang Xinjian was now useless. It was inevitable for the Thunder Monarch to rise up. At the thought of this, Fang Yuehe felt vexed. A subordinate said, "Sir, this Thunder Monarch's armor is no small matter. We'll have to make plans early." That's right. As expected of one of the 5 great clans. A centipede dies but never falls down. Now that they've invented this armor, it's inevitable for them to rise up. Let's avoid them for now. Just then, someone else said, "Maybe Xinjian's return will be able to turn the situation around." When everyone heard this, they only sneered inwardly. No one felt that with Earth's current rate of technological advancement, Fang Xinjian would have any chance to take control of the situation. Fang Yuehe's wife shook her head and said, "A few months ago, Xinjian was very amazing. However, he's already outdated on Earth now. With the information we have on the Moon, humans are about to enter an unprecedented era. His method of relying on his own cultivation to become stronger has already been eliminated." On the other side of the battlefield, Tiandao's counterattack had arrived. Moving at akin to light speed, he appeared behind the impasse armor and activated the gracefulness of time once again. Faced with the impasse armor, whose speed had been reduced to 1 centimeter per second, Tiandao pulled his hands together and performed the blade of time once again. The chaotic blade light, which contained an ancient aura, swept out toward the impasse armor's body. However, the blade of time, which had always been successful and almost no one had been able to fend against it head-on, was shattered into dust by the impasse armor under Tiandao's astonished gaze. Chapter 836. Tiandao seemed to be taken aback when he saw the blade of time being shattered by the strong mutual material on the surface of the impasse armor. At the next moment, a force field took effect on his body, instantly sending him flying over 10 kilometers away. The cracks all over his body seemed to have become even more severe. The Thunder Monarch said proudly, "You don't understand the strength of this impasse armor at all. If you did, you would feel despair." Tiandao nodded. "It is a little unexpected. However, I've basically figured out the limits of this armor, so let's stop here." Golden light flashed all over his body, and the Time King's blessing was activated. All of the Thunder Monarch's injuries instantly disappeared, and his conjured physique recovered to its peak state once again. The Thunder Monarch's expression changed, and he activated his force field once again. It was like a huge invisible palm, yet also like a mountain that was several thousand meters tall, pressing down explosively. Everywhere it passed, the clouds would surge, the seawater would sink, and a flaming hurricane would sweep out. It was as if 100 nuclear bombs had exploded in one go. However, before the Thunder Monarch could attack, Tiandao had already arrived behind the Thunder Monarch and sent out another time saber. In the center of Tiandao's brows, a golden eye had unknowingly opened. The level 11 black magic, Future Vision, was activated. With this black magic, which allowed him to see the situation at the next second, the sudden inspiration ability which he had grasped at Tier 4 of the divine level, as well as his ability to move at akin to light speed, Tiandao was able to dodge the Thunder Monarch's attacks before he made his move. He could even find a gap in the Thunder Monarch's attacks to attack him. Just the combination of these 3 abilities was enough to put him in an invincible position. Moreover, Tiandao's body also contained the gold-robed lineage's treasure, the Crystal of Time. It could be said that as long as the Heavenly Tao was unwilling, the Thunder Monarch would not be able to attack him. After being struck by the time saber 3 times in a row, the Thunder Emperor roared. Electricity flickered, and a force field radiated out in all directions with his body as the center. "What's the point? It's impossible for you to break through my armor. Surrender, Heavenly Tao. You are the one who doesn't understand." With a flash, Tiandao retreated several thousand meters away. He smiled coldly and said, "Do you really think that it's useless? Although your tortoise shell is a little hard, it is not really invincible. However, it is indeed a bit slow to slash at a time. As he spoke, Tiandao formed seals with both hands. Amidst the surging golden light, Tiandao walked out one after another. A total of 15 Tiandao walked out. Level 12 Black Magic, Chaotic Army. It could summon a version of himself from the timeline. With Tiandao's current cultivation in black magic, he could summon 15 versions of himself who were not weaker than the current him. As soon as these heavenly axioms stepped into this timeline, they became the fairy tale of the current heavenly axioms thoughts. There were a total of 16 bodies, but they were all controlled by one thought, and they would only disappear when the magic lost its effect. Under the joint attack of 16 heavenly Tao, the Thunder Monarch was instantly attacked like a storm. Each of them could predict his attacks in advance, and each of them could move at a speed akin to light speed and engage in close-quarters attack. Streams of time blade after blade of time slashed onto the Thunder Monarch's body, and a series of metallic slicing sounds rang out. Although the Thunder Monarch did not feel that he was injured, he felt increasingly uneasy, especially when he realized that he couldn't hit his opponent at all. Logically speaking, the Thunder Monarch's electromagnetic force field was also formed at close to light speed. However, other than the 4 attacks at the start, he did not manage to hit Tiandao again. A series of violent gales and storms raged on the sea. With the impasse armor's prowess, it could be said to be able to overturn rivers and seas. However, there were still 16 streams of golden light circling around the Thunder Monarch, slashing and attacking him incessantly. It was as if they did not fear the violent powers transmitted to and fro in space. A myriad of streams of time blades slashed onto the Thunder Monarch's body. Finally, as a gotcha sound rang out, a crack appeared on the surface of the impasse armor. The Thunder Monarch's countenance changed drastically, and Tiandao's voice once again rang out from afar. Although this armor of yours is immeasurably powerful and has a long lifespan, it's nothing in the face of time. At the next moment, the impasse armor shattered instantly, revealing the Thunder Monarch's physical body. However, how could the Thunder Monarch, who no longer had the impasse armor, dare to retaliate? He stood in midair with chills running down his spine, looking at Tiandao in horror. The 16 Tiandao dissipated one by one, leaving only one in the air. Tiandao shook his head and said, "Don't worry. Although it's a little immature, that armor of yours is really interesting. Teach me the method to create it, and I'll spare your life." The Thunder Monarch let out a breath as if he had just been granted amnesty. He bowed and said, "It's my honor." As Tiandao defeated the Thunder Monarch easily, the countless influences on Earth who had been paying attention to this battle also turned pale with fright. Tiandao had displayed overwhelming power in the series of battles, especially when it came to the many gold faction black magic. His grasp over spacetime was simply amazing. Regardless of whether it was Xia Yan and the others from the Planetary Defense, Fang Yuehe and the others from the Fang clan, or the leaders of the other clans in great countries, all of them had lost their courage after being beaten up by Tiandao. They no longer dared to have any thoughts of resisting. However, just then, 3 figures crossed the sea and appeared before Tiandao. They were Fang Xinjian, the Black Mage King, and the Gold Mage King, who had rushed over to Earth. The sea region to the east of Demonic City was the area that covered Miracle World. The moment the 3 of them arrived on Earth, they could almost sense the existence of Tiandao and the Thunder Monarch with their martial wills. After all, the 2 of them were divine-level experts, and the energies contained in their bodies were not to be underestimated. They were as obvious as candles in the dark night. "It's Fang Xinjian. Who are the 2 people next to him? To think that he's here now." Countless people who saw this scene through the satellites gasped in astonishment. No one had expected that Fang Xinjian would appear at this moment. In the Planetary Defense, Xia Yan's gaze narrowed. "That's the Black Mage King? Why is he together with Fang Xinjian? Could it be that the Mage Association is going to invade Earth?" Has Fang Xinjian joined the Mage Association? Fang Xingchen was the Black Mage King's disciple, and the members of Earth's upper echelon naturally knew what this top-notch expert in Miracle World looked like. To the members of Earth's upper echelon, based on the information they had, Tiandao was cultivating under the Gold Mage King and was naturally a member of the Mage Association. The appearance of the Black Mage King and Fang Xinjian seemed to prove that Tiandao's sudden attack was the Mage Association's idea. Moreover, an expert like Fang Xinjian was someone that only a powerful existence like the Mage Association would be able to suppress. Everything seemed to make sense. Gasps rang out from the Fang clan as well. Xinjian is back? Isn't that the Black Mage King? Why are they together? Could it be that Xinjian has joined the Black Mage King's side? Fang Yuehe's eyes lit up. If Xinjian has really joined the Mage Association, then it'll be a rare opportunity for the Fang clan. With that, even if the Mage Association takes control of Earth, there'll still be a place for the Fang clan. Chapter 837. When the various major forces on Earth saw the Black Mage King's appearance, they were either worried, wary, or pessimistic about Earth's future. Above the sea, the Gold Mage King's eyes were the first to reveal hints of killing intent. Previously, his disciple had been killed by Tiandao, and his crystal of time had been snatched away. When he heard that Fang Xinjian had already killed Tiandao, he did not take it to heart. However, to think that Tiandao was still alive. Moreover, when his martial will sensed the vigorous energy flow in Tiandao's body this time around, it was even 30% stronger than his own. This made him secretly surprised. Tiandao? This person should already be dead, right? The Gold Mage King voiced out his doubts through information current. It's true that I've killed him, but it's also possible that he has sent a clone to hide on Earth. However, I have no idea how he managed to attain his current cultivation. At this, Fang Xinjian's gaze flickered as he thought of another possibility. Logically speaking, Tiandao could only hide on Earth to avoid Fang Xinjian's sudden inspiration in Miracle World. However, if he were to hide on Earth, it would be impossible for him to have the cultivation he was displaying now. Therefore, Fang Xinjian suddenly thought that Tiandao might have come from another parallel universe. He had asked the Black Mage King, Tyrant, the Fourth Prince, and many other divine-level experts. When these experts from Miracle World cleared the nine-tiered heavens, they had all been in an environment similar to Miracle World. He was the only one who had traversed to an Earth-like environment. If this was related to his birth, then it was not impossible for Tiandao from a parallel world to traverse over. However, the Gold Mage King did not care so much anymore. He had imparted Tiandao black magic to Tiandao and accepted Tiandao as his disciple. Tiandao had killed the disciple he was proud of and snatched away his crystal of time. Tiandao could be said to have a deep feud with him. Imperial Preceptor, leave this person to me. As he spoke, the Gold Mage King took a step forward and appeared before Tiandao. When Tiandao saw the three of them appear, he was slightly surprised. However, at the next moment, he smiled. Black Mage King? Gold Mage King? And Fang Xinjian? So, it's the three of you who have lost to me. I didn't expect that the three of you would join forces in this world. The Gold Mage King said coldly, Tiandao, do you know the consequences of killing fellow disciples in the association and betraying one's master and ancestors? Tiandao laughed out loud, looking at the three of them as though they were clowns. You don't understand what kind of situation you're in. I can only say that it's your tragedy to meet me again. As he spoke, he made the first move. With a flash of golden light, it turned into a huge palm that slapped out toward the Gold Mage King. The Gold Mage King let out a cold laugh, and a bright light also burst out, turning into a myriad of sword light that tore the huge palm apart. Martial will was formless and incorporeal. It was a force field that spread out at the speed of light. It could appear and disappear from time to time, fluctuating in size and size. It did not have a concrete form, and it was only due to the difference in the individual's martial path that it manifested into different shapes. Although Tiandao and the Gold Mage King focused on sorcery, their martial arts were also unfathomable, far surpassing that of ordinary knight experts. Moreover, the two of them had reached Tier 5 of the divine level and had even reached the microscopic realm. Each and every one of their actions would shake out within a radius of 100 li, overturning rivers and seas. As the two of them fought it out, streams of golden light tore through the clouds, stirred up the seas, and turned into 100-meter-long tsunamis that slapped out. There were also colorful lights flashing explosively in void space, emitting high temperatures that were comparable to that of nuclear warhead. These were just the repercussions from the duo's exchange. At the center of the battlefield, the space was distorted into a mess, and one could no longer see anything clearly with one's vision. With a single thought from Fang Xinjian, the celestial eradication sword formation was activated, fending off all the repercussions from the duo's exchange. Then he grabbed the Thunder Monarch, who was dodging in all directions, over. Fang Xinjian asked directly, "What on earth is going on?" The Thunder Monarch felt that his body was being squeezed by a tremendous force. Even with his Tier 1 divine level cultivation, he was unable to put up any resistance. In the blink of an eye, he was grabbed by Fang Xinjian and brought before him. He understood that Fang Xinjian's strength had probably increased tremendously again. However, in the Thunder Monarch's opinion, there was no way that Fang Xinjian could be compared to the Black Mage King. The Black Mage King was probably still the one making the decisions here. Therefore, even though Fang Xinjian had taken the initiative to ask, the Thunder Monarch's attention was still on the Black Mage King. He nodded slightly at Fang Xinjian and then said to the Black Mage King, "Lord Mage King, I don't know why Tiandao has gone crazy. The moment he appeared on Earth, he attacked everywhere and has already killed over 100,000 people. However, for some reason, his cultivation has increased tremendously, and I'm unable to do anything to him." After Tiandao and the Gold Mage King exchanged a couple of blows to test each other out, they each started to perform Gold Faction Black Magic. With this, the battle between the two Gold Faction Black Magic experts immediately entered a strange and dazzling state. Their movements were sometimes fast and sometimes slow, and their bodies were sometimes indistinct. They would occasionally disappear and reappear abruptly. Moreover, due to the effects of futuristic vision, they seemed to be able to keep on predicting their opponents' attacking means. They would always attack each other but then stop halfway. Despite the continuous battles, there was not a single true collision. This caused the entire scene to appear extremely strange. At the sight of this scene, the Thunder Monarch's heart skipped a beat. He looked at the Black Mage King and asked, "Lord Mage King, is it the Lord Gold Mage King who is fighting against Tiandao?" The Black Mage King could not be bothered to answer him, and merely nodded slightly. However, this caused great waves in the Thunder Monarch's heart. He had not expected that two Mage Kings would come to Earth together. However, what astonished him the most was that even the Gold Mage King was unable to deal with Tiandao. Therefore, the Thunder Monarch immediately used the communication device he had on him to send out this important information. It immediately caused a series of astonished gasps among the various major influences on Earth. Suddenly, Tiandao's body shattered, and he arrived 1,000 meters up in the sky at a speed akin to light speed. He looked down at the Gold Mage King and said, "Your black magic cultivation isn't weak. Since that's the case, I'll deal with you at one go." As he spoke, golden light seethed and trembled behind him. In the blink of an eye, 15 clones from other timelines walked out. It was another level 12 black magic chaos army. At the sight of this scene, the Gold Mage King's eyes narrowed slightly, and there seemed to be a hint of surprise flashing in them. The golden light behind him also trembled a little, and 10 clones walked out. In an instant, it was clear who was stronger. Tiandao's black magic cultivation was clearly above the Gold Mage King's. A total of 27 clones instantly clashed together. The battle between the two parties had an explosive power that was over 10 times stronger than before. Golden light burst out, and as the force fields trembled, the seawater within a range of several thousand meters kept on evaporating and sinking at a speed that could be seen by the naked eye. Chapter 838. A large hole was pierced through the atmospheric layer in the sky, revealing the pitch-black outer space. In this exchange, the Gold Mage King was completely suppressed. Almost each of his clones kept on retreating, and he could only rely on the unique characteristics of Gold Faction black magic to barely hang on. Everyone was taken aback at the sight of this scene. The Black Mage King's brows also raised abruptly, as if he had not expected that even the Gold Mage King would not be able to deal with Tiandao. Furthermore, he was being suppressed by Tiandao in terms of black magic. Fang Xinjian threw a few more glances and knew that if this were to go on, the Gold Mage King would definitely be defeated. He immediately said, "All right, you can step back first. I'll deal with him." Hearing that, the Gold Mage King retreated from the battlefield with a flash. Amidst this series of retreat, 2 of his clones were struck by the combined forces of the other party's 16 forces, shattering into a myriad of light spots. With this, the Gold Mage King's countenance turned even more grim, and his gaze toward Tiandao was filled with even more hatred. After doing this, Tiandao smiled and looked at the 3 of them, saying, "Why? The 3 of you want to join forces? I'll say this in advance. I've only been warming up until now." Tiandao did not lie to them. It was because the highest level of black magic he had performed so far was merely the level 13 Blade of Time. However, his true abilities had already reached level 15 black magic. This was the highest level of black magic that one could comprehend below tier 5 of the divine level. It was also because of this that his cultivation, which had reached tier 5 of the divine level, had reached perfection and could not advance any further. This was why he was striving for the 9-tiered heavens. With such abilities, he naturally had no fear in striving for the 9-tiered heavens. He believed that there would not be too many obstacles. Right now, the various forces on Earth were in a state of panic after receiving the Thunder Monarch's news. They had not expected that other than Fang Xinjian, the other person who had come with the Black Mage King would be the Gold Mage King. To think that even the Gold Mage King, who was the strongest expert in the gold-robed faction, had been defeated by Tiandao. How powerful was Tiandao's true abilities? Would the Black Mage King and Gold Mage King be a match for him? What kind of fortuitous encounter did Tiandao have? To think that his black magic is a match for the Gold Mage King's? Not only is he comparable to the Gold Mage King, but he's even stronger than the Gold Mage King. Damn it! Even if the 2 Mage Kings are able to defeat Tiandao, won't Earth be implicated if the 3 divine-level experts were to fight? At the thought of this, many members of Earth's upper echelon immediately panicked. With the mobility and destructive prowess displayed by these divine-level experts, it was not impossible for them to cause the world to sink and for the world to crumble if they were to engage in a life-and-death battle. Just the thought of such a scene caused countless people to turn pale. The leaders of many countries and the upper echelons of the military immediately set off, heading to the underground fortifications to hide, as if doomsday was approaching. Elsewhere, Fang Xinjian had already arrived several hundred meters away from Tiandao. He said calmly, "You came from another parallel universe?" Ever since Tiandao came to this world, this was the first time he had met someone who could see through his root. He rolled his eyes and smiled, saying, "That's true. You and I are both from Earth. You've cleared the 9-tiered heavens in Miracle World, so you must have been to Earth's parallel world. It's not difficult for you to think of this. Since that's the case, I'll say it directly." Tiandao looked at Fang Xinjian and said directly through information currents, Since you know that I'm here to clear the nine-tiered heavens, then you should know that I won't be staying here for too long. As long as you and the other major influences on Earth obey my orders and help me search for the opportunity to clear the trial, I'll spare your lives." However, Fang Shijian shook his head and did not say anything. Putting aside the fact that he was unwilling to let Earth be messed up by Tiandao and guide its history, the Black Mage King and Gold Mage King were both behind him. If he were to back off even when encountering Tiandao this time around, the two of them would probably harbor thoughts that they should not have. With the Mage Association's background, although he was not afraid now, there was no need for him to do so. Therefore, Fang Xinjian tapped out with a finger, and streams of sword light flashed in void space. It was as if the sun was hanging down in the sky, illuminating the area within a range of several tens of kilometers. Looking at the flashing sword light that filled up the sky, Tiandao suddenly had a bad premonition. The Gold Mage King and Black Mage King's faces gleamed as they stared at Fang Xinjian. They seemed to be filled with anticipation toward how Fang Xinjian was going to make a move. However, the Thunder Monarch was extremely astonished. He could not understand why Fang Xinjian would be able to go up when even the Gold Mage King was not a match for Tiandao. Just then, Tiandao felt that something was increasingly off. Therefore, with a flash of golden light, he made his move. The moment he made his move, it was the level 12 Black Magic, Chaotic Army, followed by the level 13 Black Magic, Blade of Time. 16 silhouettes dashed out simultaneously, holding onto the Blade of Time and slashing out toward Fang Xinjian's body. Simultaneously, the third eye on his forehead opened abruptly, emitting streams of golden light that kept on predicting Fang Xinjian's next move. However, regardless of whether it was his predictions or what he saw, he did not see any signs of Fang Xinjian dodging or putting up any resistance. Under his astonished gaze, the 16 Blade of Time slashed across Fang Xinjian's body simultaneously. However, at the next moment, they dissipated simultaneously as if they had never existed. Although Tiandao had encountered Fang Xinjian before in his own world, that Fang Xinjian did not possess the ability to be immune to black magic. Right now, seeing that the Blade of Time was ineffective and had even dissipated, Tiandao's heart skipped a beat, and he was almost stunned. At the next moment, Fang Xinjian tapped out toward Tiandao's forehead with a finger. Tiandao's countenance changed, and he performed the gracefulness of time, wanting to reduce Fang Xinjian's speed to 1 centimeter per second. However, golden light flashed, and Fang Xinjian's body did not show any changes. Fang Xinjian's finger was already about to tap on Tiandao's forehead lightly. The Crystal of Time was activated, and Tiandao once again performed 7 types of gold faction black magic within a second. However, not a single one of them had any effect on Fang Xinjian. Tiandao's gaze turned extremely grim. Black magic is ineffective? But how is this possible? At the next moment, the Crystal of Time's 1-second time halt ended. Fang Xinjian's finger continued to advance, and Tiandao retreated fiercely. However, no matter how fast he moved at light speed and dodged based on his futuristic vision senses, that finger seemed to ignore time and space, getting closer and closer to his head inch by inch. Under Fang Xinjian's sword formation's illusory arts, it was impossible for Tiandao to really dodge Fang Xinjian's attack. At the next moment, Fang Xinjian's finger finally tapped onto Tiandao's forehead. It seemed like a light tap, but it contained the entire Celestial Eradication sword formation's powers. Tiandao felt as if he had been struck by a planet. Moreover, this gush of power was not a propulsive force but a microscopic one, striking onto his body and exploding. In that instant, accompanied by a furious bellow, his upper body shattered, and his conjured form turned into countless light spots. Chapter 839. At the next moment, the blessing of the Time King was activated, and he once again regained his conjured physique. However, his countenance was extremely grim, and there was even a hint of astonishment in his gaze as he looked at Fang Xinjian. To think that black magic was ineffective against Fang Xinjian. How could he not be astonished? This was especially so after Fang Xinjian's final finger attack. He had unleashed all his means, including performing black magic and moving at light speed, but he was still unable to dodge it. Moreover, the power contained in that attack had torn his body apart. It was many times stronger than what the Thunder Monarch and the Gold Mage King had faced earlier. When the Thunder Monarch saw that Fang Xinjian was about to make a move earlier, he immediately asked Mage Kings to let a person like Xinjian deal with Tiandao alone. However, before he could finish his words, he saw Fang Xinjian explode Tiandao's body with a tap of his finger, and he was stunned. At the next moment, Fang Xinjian tapped out once again. Tiandao's figure flashed repeatedly, flying at light speed. However, he could only move up, down, left, and right, seemingly unable to break free from Fang Xinjian's tap. Once again, a large part of his body exploded. Within the celestial eradication sword formation, not only could Fang Xinjian control information at the microscopic level, but he could also distort space, making it impossible for Tiandao to move according to his will. Retreat. With the blessing of the Time King once again, Tiandao's first thought was to retreat. His body instantly split up, turning into countless streams of light as he retreated explosively. However, when he came to a stop, he was still standing before Fang Xinjian, exploding from another tap of Fang Xinjian's finger. The Thunder Monarch watched as Tiandao retreated 7 steps consecutively and was killed 7 times by Fang Xinjian's 7 finger taps consecutively. His mind went blank. To think that the Thunder Monarch was unable to defeat this opponent despite putting in all his effort and using the impasse armor, and the Gold Mage King was easily defeated even after going all out. To think that Tiandao was so weak before Fang Xinjian. After killing Tiandao 7 times consecutively with 7 finger taps consecutively, Fang Xinjian did not continue to make his move. Instead, he looked at Tiandao casually and said, "Are you done warming up?" Tiandao's face twitched. He knew that Fang Xinjian was mocking what he had said earlier. Tiandao immediately let out a cold laugh and said, "Humph, to think that you in this world actually have some skills. Since that's the case, I've warmed up enough. Prepare to receive another move from me." As he spoke, a golden light burst out from every pore on his body, and a powerful heretical god force radiated from his body. The 10 or so attempts earlier all showed that Fang Xinjian was affected by countless metal faction black magic. Therefore, he could only try to use black magic to strengthen himself instead of weakening his opponent. Thankfully, he had a total of 2 level 15 black magic that he had mastered. One of them was used to control his opponent, while the other happened to be used to strengthen himself. In an instant, a set of golden armor enveloped Tiandao from head to toe. The gorgeous armor was covered in rows of golden inscriptions. These twisting and wriggling runes were like golden bugs. Some were big, some were small, and some were big, and they emitted an endless sense of mystery. Level 15 Black Magic, Futuristic Armor. When performing black magic, Tiandao could be said to be on his guard to the extreme. It was as if he was constantly guarding against Fang Xinjian's sneak attacks, preventing him from performing this magic. Then once the parallel armor was successfully released, Tiandao let out a light breath and revealed a relaxed expression. As the strongest black magic that he possessed, it could transfer all the attacks that were on him to his other timelines. At the very least, to the current Tiandao, he could not think of any way to defeat the futuristic armor. Of course, this black magic also had a flaw. It was that the diabolic energy that it depleted was extremely tremendous. Even with Tiandao's reserves, he could only last for about half an hour. But it's enough. During this half an hour, I'm invincible. Tiandao let out a low bellow, and streams of golden light turned into countless thunderbolts that moved around his body. With the defense of the futuristic armor, Tiandao felt that he was in an undefeatable position. He immediately unleashed all of his martial will and accumulated his power for an attack, wanting to kill Fang Xinjian with a single move. Streams of golden thunderbolts circled above his head. As they flashed, they tore through the atmosphere and the clouds. It was as if countless images of the past and future could be seen flowing in them. Tiandao did not just cultivate black magic. It was just that he was very used to using black magic to eliminate his opponent. His achievements in martial arts were also not to be underestimated. Right now, he was performing the martial technique that he had created himself, the Void Titan Divine Thunder. This Divine Thunder martial technique could absorb the omnipresent heavenly thunders and terrestrial magnetism forces in the world. Once this martial technique started to accumulate power, all physical substances within a range of several 10,000 meters would gradually lose their heavenly thunders and terrestrial magnetism forces. The forces that connected physical particles, molecules, and atoms would suddenly disappear, and physical substances' structures would start to collapse. Moreover, this was just the process of accumulating power. All of the heavenly thunders and terrestrial magnetism forces would be absorbed into one, turning into a myriad of thunderbolts that plunged down. The explosive power would be sufficient to push the tectonic plates of the land. This was the martial technique that Tiandao had the best in terms of offense. However, due to the great depletion, he usually did not use it. However, this time around, he planned on using this divine thunder to crush the three of them at one go when he was up against Fang Xinjian. Let's go! The Black Mage King let out a bellow as he looked at the phenomenon of physical substances breaking down. Then he retreated together with the Thunder Monarch and the Gold Mage King. Fang Xinjian was left standing under the myriad of golden thunderbolts, appearing calm and composed. It was as if he did not care about Fang Xinjian's attacks at all. Tiandao laughed and said, "Fang Xinjian, this is a martial technique that I created myself, the Void Titan Divine Thunder. Each divine thunder is a manifestation of my martial will, and it absorbs the heavenly thunders and terrestrial magnetism forces through microscopic means. Once it attacks, no one in the world will be able to fend it off. Are you trying to be like a mantis trying to stop a chariot?" Looking at the increasingly terrifying divine thunder in the sky, Fang Xinjian frowned slightly and said, "It's true that I can't allow you to perform this martial technique here." As Fang Xinjian spoke, he appeared before Tiandao with a flash. He tapped out with a finger and pointed it toward Tiandao's forehead. Tiandao let out a cold laugh, and a myriad of thunderbolts came crashing down from the sky. The Void Titan Divine Thunder's main killing prowess was no longer the high temperature and electric currents. Instead, it was that extremely terrifying power. It was as if even the entire space was trembling, and the air currents within a range of 10,000 meters were swept away. The sea that was 1,000 meters below was compressed by the tempest, sinking down abruptly. Just the repercussions of the attack alone could form an unprecedented tsunami that would engulf the entire demonic city. However, when the divine thunder landed on Fang Xinjian's body, it was as if it had landed on an illusion. It passed through Fang Xinjian's body and continued smashing down toward the surface of the sea. When Tiandao saw this scene through his futuristic vision, his countenance changed. He wanted to adjust the divine thunder, but Fang Xinjian's finger was already pressing down gently on the futuristic armor. At the next moment, Tiandao's countenance changed drastically. It was because he discovered that under this finger, the futuristic armor, which should have been impenetrable by all techniques, was completely useless. He was sent flying out explosively toward outer space. How is this possible? The futuristic armor shouldn't be something that can be broken through head-on. Just as Tiandao was feeling astonished, Fang Xinjian's hand once again pressed down on his head. "If it's an interstellar journey, where do you want to go?" Chapter 840. Golden light burst out, and Fang Xinjian's martial will emitted a series of furious bellows. The golden light once again turned into a void titan thunderbolt and struck out toward Fang Xinjian. However, the latter opened his mouth and swallowed it. At the sight of this scene, Tiandao's eyes opened wide, as if he could not believe what had just happened. At the next moment, Fang Xinjian's hand, which was holding onto Tiandao's head, gave a light push. Tiandao sensed an extremely majestic power, which was like the impact of Mount Meru in Buddhist legends, gushing toward him. In Buddhist legends, Mount Meru had a height of 84,000 yujin, and a yujin was the distance that a cow could travel in a day. It was equivalent to Mount Meru, which was several times bigger than the entire Earth. Right now, Tiandao had the feeling as if he had been struck by Mount Meru. He felt as if he had smashed through space and surpassed space-time with a single attack. Countless light spots were flung before him into streams of light, and he seemed to be darting out at superluminal speed. When he came to a stop, he had arrived in an unfamiliar space-time. His surroundings were pitch black, and there were only starlight flashing in the distance. He could not even see the sun. With a single attack, he sent me out of the solar system? This kind of thing. Is it impossible? This is the starry sky of the Centaurus constellation. Fang Xinjian appeared before him, looked at the starry sky and said, "It's true that I'm unable to break through this armor of yours. I can only bring you into the starry sky and wait until your armor is removed." Hearing that, Tiandao's countenance changed, as if he was still in disbelief. At the next moment, he turned into a stream of light and darted out toward the universe's vacuum in the distance. However, after several minutes, no matter how he darted and flew, he was still unable to leave this environment. Even at the speed of light, it seemed as if he was unable to close the distance between him and the starry sky. The more he flew, the more astonished Tiandao's eyes became. He suddenly came to a stop and started to attack in all directions. Streams of golden light that could destroy streets and topple buildings shot out toward the endless universe's void space. However, they seemed to be unable to affect the environment before him at all. After attacking crazily for a few minutes, Tiandao stopped. He suddenly shouted, "Fang Xinjian, I surrender. I surrender. Bring me back. I can stay in this world and work for you. I'm far stronger than the Black Mage King and the Gold Mage King, and I also know many secrets about Miracle World. With your strength, are you going to deal with the Holy Sea of Truth? I can tell you the countless secrets of the Holy Sun and the Guardian Kings." The Heavenly Tao only wanted to call out Fang Xinjian now. It would be best if he could bring him back to Earth. As for whether or not he would really surrender, that would be another matter. However, no matter how much he shouted or how much he sent out his martial will and information, the surrounding universe's vacuum remained quiet. It was as if he was the only one there. Looking at the endless darkness, the endless vacuum, and the stars in the distance that were countless light years away, Tiandao suddenly felt a sense of terror. This was the terror that the universe could bring to people just by relying on its vastness. He suddenly sat cross-legged and began to think of a countermeasure. Light speed movement, spatial distortions, microscopic level of destruction, and sudden inspiration senses. However, no matter how he thought, how he tried to break through, and how he calculated his abilities and the environment before him, he was unable to change the current situation. After about another 10 minutes, he gradually started to believe that he had really been brought to a stretch of the starry sky far away. He felt a deep terror toward Fang Xinjian's means. He wondered if he should remove the futuristic armor. If this place is really countless light years away, then all the more I should remove the armor to conserve diabolic energy. But Fang Xinjian said earlier that he would wait for me to remove the armor. If I were to remove it now, wouldn't I be giving him a chance to attack me? No matter what, the futuristic armor is useless in the current situation. I should conserve more diabolic energy and see if there are any other ways to break out of this situation. Otherwise, the futuristic armor will disappear in another 10 minutes or so, and the diabolic energy will be completely depleted. The futuristic armor on Tiandao flashed, and at the next moment it disappeared completely. Come on out, Fang Xinjian. My futuristic armor has disappeared. Isn't this what you've been waiting for? In the universe's void space, Fang Xinjian's figure once again slowly appeared. Looking at Fang Xinjian, Tiandao's countenance turned extremely grim. Fang Xinjian, it's true that you're more skilled today. I admit defeat. What do I have to do for you to let me off? Fang Xinjian's eyelids drooped slightly, and the corners of his lips curled up into a hint of a smile. Then let's do it this way. There's no need for that armor. Just take a punch from me. If you don't die from this punch, I'll spare your life. How about that? All right. Tiandao knew that he no longer had any basis to negotiate terms. Hearing that, his body trembled, and streams of golden light soared into the sky, circling around him. Concurrently, he once again activated the chaotic army, and 15 figures circled around him once again, going all out in a defensive stance. He thought, even if I go all out and am unable to take this attack of yours, at the very least, the Time King's blessings allowed me to be reborn. No matter what, there's no way I'll be killed by a single punch from you. Are you ready? Fang Xinjian said calmly, then take this. As he spoke, he punched out. As this punch flew out, Tiandao felt as if the entire world had suddenly exploded in that instant. Endless light and heat splattered before him, and the fist enlarged rapidly in his eyes, taking up his entire field of vision. Fang Xinjian's punch seemed as if the entire world was smashing toward him. The 15 clones let out explosive bellows and were all shattered. Following this, the golden light all over Fang Xinjian's body trembled violently, shattering into pieces one after another. At the next moment, his conjured physique was already filled with cracks, and it shattered loudly. However, he had just been reborn when he sensed an overwhelming power attacking him once again. His conjured physique shattered once again. Fang. His body shattered once again. Xing. Almost at the instant he was reborn, he died once again. The overwhelming forces in the surroundings also became increasingly ferocious, as if they were endless and pressing down on his body. Sword! How can this be? How can there be a human in this world whose punch can reach such a terrifying level? Amidst Tiandao's final cries and puzzlement, Tiandao continued to be pressed down and crushed by the overwhelming powers. He died at the instant he was reborn, and he died again and again. He completely lost the chance to think. From Fang Xinjian's perspective, Tiandao had already been sent into the sun. The overwhelming powers that Fang Xinjian had sensed in his final punch were actually the powers from the sun that Fang Xinjian had borrowed. It was because the starry sky seen earlier was naturally an illusion created by Fang Xinjian. Tiandao was still on Earth at the beginning, and it was Tiandao's light-speed flight that allowed him to leave Earth. Under the guidance of Fang Xinjian's illusory arts and spatial distortions, he continued to fly toward the sun. Although the sun was far away, if he were to move at light speed, it would only take him 8 minutes to reach it. If it was not because he had to wait for Tiandao's futuristic armor to end, Fang Xinjian would be able to end the battle even faster. As the largest celestial body in the solar system, the sun possessed energy that far surpassed that of all other matter in the entire solar system. Even with Fang Xinjian's current abilities, he would only be able to move about on the sun's surface at most. As for the high temperatures and high pressures within the sun, even Fang Xinjian would be unable to withstand them. As Tiandao continued to penetrate deeper into the sun, endless high temperatures and high pressures came encompassing down. It was as if there were a myriad of nuclear missiles exploding toward his body at every moment, causing him to be reborn under the blessings of the Time King time and time again until his diabolic energy was depleted and he died. Chapter 841. On Earth, under everyone's astonished gazes, Fang Xinjian slapped away the divine thunder that had descended from the sky. Then, with a tap of his finger, Tiandao shattered together with his armor and was reborn. No. Fang Xinjian, you can't. Boom. Fang Xinjian struck out with another palm strike, and Tiandao's conjured physique collapsed once again. Tiandao was struck by this palm strike and turned into a stream of light, flying toward the sky. Then, Fang Xinjian put out his hand and pressed down. The sea that had been struck by the void vigor divine thunder seemed to have been flattened by a huge invisible palm, dissipating the great tsunami that was about to occur. Just then, Fang Xinjian's clone was still flying toward the sun with Tiandao. However, due to the celestial eradication sword formation that Fang Xinjian had set up, it was impossible for any of the external influences to detect their existence. Looking at Tiandao, who had turned into a stream of light and dissipated, the Thunder Monarch was dumbstruck. The Gold Mage King asked anxiously, "Imperial Preceptor, is there no need to give chase?" Fang Xinjian waved his hand and said, "It's fine. I've already sent him toward the sun with this attack. He'll be incinerated by the sun's flames." Sending his opponent to the sun with a single attack? Hearing Fang Xinjian's explanation, the two Mage Kings were stunned for a moment, but they did not rebut him. However, there was a hint of doubt in their gazes. After all, the means that Fang Xinjian had mentioned were too unbelievable, and they found it hard to believe. Although the Thunder Monarch, who was standing a little further away, was astonished by Fang Xinjian's strength, he did not believe Fang Xinjian's words at all. How far was the sun from Earth? Moreover, Tiandao had sent Tiandao to the sun with a single attack. How strong was Tiandao? How could he have been pushed all the way to the sun by the power of a single attack from Fang Xinjian without putting up any resistance from such a great distance? However, seeing how the two Mage Kings were respectful and submissive to Fang Xinjian, the Thunder Monarch was secretly astonished. Although he did not believe Fang Xinjian's words, he did not stand out to refute them. Instead, he contacted Earth's military and quickly searched for traces of Tiandao. The Thunder Monarch sighed inwardly, "Sigh, even though you've managed to push him back, you've left Earth with a great problem." At the thought of how Tiandao was still hiding in some unknown corner of Earth, the Thunder Monarch felt goosebumps all over his body. On the other hand, Fang Xinjian did not care so much. With a flash, he disappeared along with the two Mage Kings and arrived at the ruins of the Fang clan. His original intention was to look for Fang Yue. However, he had not expected that the Fang clan had already been reduced to ruins. Looking at the situation in front of him, he frowned slightly, but he did not leave. Instead, he stood on the spot without moving. He knew that he had not concealed his actions, and Earth would naturally send people to contact him soon. Right now, the hearts of the countless members of the upper echelon who were watching this battle from the various major influences on Earth were all extremely shaken. Ever since they had obtained the high technological knowledge from the moon's relics, many influences on Earth had felt a sense of superiority. They felt that Earth's technological level would see a great explosion. Moreover, with the development of many weapons, everyone felt that Miracle World was no longer terrifying and that people would be able to grasp powers that were even more terrifying and controllable than divine-level experts. However, the appearance of Tiandao and Fang Xinjian had completely shattered everyone's expectations. How strong on Earth has Fang Xinjian become? To think that there's such a great difference between the battle prowess of divine-level experts? Tiandao was able to defeat the Gold Mage King, but Fang Xinjian was able to defeat Tiandao easily. Could it be that Fang Xinjian's strength has already surpassed that of Mage Kings? Look at the Gold Mage King's and Black Mage King's actions. They look just like Fang Xinjian's subordinate. What on earth has happened? In Earth's planetary defense, the commander-in-chief, Xia Yan, rubbed his eyes, looking as if he had suddenly aged by a few years. What he wanted to do the most was to let the military and government's powers surpass those divine-level experts once again, bringing the entire world under the Earth's Federation's control. He did not want those individual experts to be able to toy around with the politics, economy, and military. The appearance of the moon's relics had given him hope. However, Tiandao's appearance and Fang Xingzhan's appearance had turned his hope into despair. An existence like Fang Xingzhan? Are we really able to defeat him when we're still alive? An intense lack of confidence suddenly rose in his heart. Just then, an assistant walked over from the side. "Sir, there's news from the Thunder Monarch." Fang Xingzhan said that Tiandao has already been beaten to the sun by him. Ridiculous! Xia Yan's thoughts once again returned to reality and he said, "Immediately mobilize all our powers to search for Tiandao's traces. He's probably still hiding on Earth. We must grasp the whereabouts of such a dangerous person. We also have to look for Fang Xingzhan and the two Mage Kings. The three of them are even more dangerous than Tiandao. We must be on guard against them." Many orders were given out, and the various members of the upper echelon of the Earth's Federation kept on guessing the relationship between Fang Xingzhan and the two Mage Kings. Over 10 minutes later, Xia Yan received a call from the observatory. At first, he was a little impatient. However, his eyes widened increasingly, and eventually, his mouth was agape as he allowed his cell phone to drop onto the ground. "Report the situation to the higher-ups immediately. Fang Xingzhan. We mustn't make an enemy out of him." In the Fang clan's underground fortification in Demonic City, Fang Yuehe stood before a screen and watched the battle end. His eyes flashed with great elation. Ha 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 ha, the Fang clan has Xingzhan's support. From today onward, who on earth will be able to go up against them? Behind Fang Yuehe, the faces of the several Fang clan's elders were also filled with great surprise. Fang Yuehe's wife, who had originally thought that Fang Xingzhan was no longer of any use, was also astonished. She then looked at Fang Xingzhan on the screen with great respect. With Fang Xingzhan around, the Fang clan will be able to dominate over Earth for 100 years. Seeing that Fang Xingzhan had disappeared from the screen, Fang Yuehe waved his hand and said, "Let's go. Xingzhan must have gone to the Fang clan's manor to look for us. Let's go and welcome him right away." After the Thunder Monarch changed into a new set of clothes, he received the news and rushed to the Fang clan's manor's ruins at the first instant. He looked at Fang Xingzhan, the Gold Mage King, and the Black Mage King, who were several hundred meters away, and his gaze was grim. Now that Tiandao has fled, the entire Earth is in danger. Only the three of them will be able to subdue Tiandao. Moreover, the three of them are a great threat themselves. I must get them to make a move and make use of their powers to kill Tiandao completely. A strange gleam flashed in the Thunder Monarch's eyes. If we can make use of Tiandao to kill one or two of them. As for what Fang Xingzhan had said about Tiandao being burned to death by being shot into the sun, the Thunder Monarch did not believe it at all. Just then, a disciple of the Ford clan ran over with a horrified expression. Sir, bad news." The Thunder Monarch frowned and said, "What's the matter? Why are you in such a panic?" Chapter 842. The Thunder Monarch was still frowning as he looked at the junior from his clan. However, that junior from the Ford clan could not help but shout, "Sir, we've detected traces that seem to be Tiandao." "Where is it?" The Thunder Monarch raised his brows and immediately focused his attention. The two Mage Kings who were several hundred meters away also exchanged a glance and released their mental energy. That young man from the Ford clan said, "On the sun." The Thunder Monarch's brows furrowed, and he was about to reprimand the young man when he heard the young man continue, "We've discovered traces of Tiandao flying toward the sun. A few astronomical observatories in the space department saw obvious light and explosions on the sun's surface, which lasted for about 1 minute or so. As he spoke, he took out a stack of documents and placed them before the Thunder Monarch. The Thunder Monarch's countenance turned solemn, and he immediately took the documents and started reading them. A short moment later, his mind was shaken, and he turned in astonishment to look in Fang Xinjian's direction. To think that it's true? He swept Tiandao all the way to the sun with a single attack? Such strength! We've still underestimated Fang Xinjian. We'll need to make some adjustments to all the arrangements from now on. The two Mage Kings revealed astonished expressions. The Black Mage King and Gold Mage King exchanged a glance, both able to see the heaviness and astonishment in each other's eyes. They were not ordinary cultivators who only knew how to cultivate. As divine-level experts and users of black magic, they could enter the microscopic world and the nine-tiered heavens. They had a deep understanding of the structure of the entire world and the entire universe. Moreover, they had specially studied the scientific knowledge on Earth. Of course, they understood what kind of unbelievable cultivation it meant to be able to strike Tiandao into the sun and burn him to death. On the other hand, Fang Xinjian did not seem to have felt anything. He just stood there. The Black Mage King and Gold Mage King stood at the side like two respectful guards, not daring to disturb Fang Xinjian at all. The Thunder Monarch also waited quietly in the distance. Right now, Fang Xinjian had become an invincible and undefeatable existence before him. At least before Earth enters the era of interstellar migration, I'm afraid the entire Earth Federation will crawl at the feet of Fang Xinjian. Over 10 minutes later, Fang Yuehe brought a group of people from the Fang clan and rushed over. At the sight of Fang Xinjian, Fang Yuehe laughed out loud. Xinjian, it's all thanks to you this time around for saving Earth from danger. With you around, the entire Earth will be safe. Fang Yuehe walked up to Fang Xinjian and looked at the young man before him. His heart was filled with emotions and sighs. Who would have thought that an ordinary young man from 3 years ago would now become a pillar of Earth, the protector of the entire Fang clan, and even the entire Earth's Federation? Right now, Fang Yuehe had already become the head of the Fang clan and had been at the pinnacle of power for the past few months, living a life where a single word from him could affect millions of people. However, as he stood before Fang Xinjian, he still could not help but put on a fawning and reserved expression. Fang Xinjian waved his hand and said, "There's no need for formalities. The reason I've returned to Earth this time around is to find out some things." As he said that, he channeled streams of information currents into Fang Yuehe's mind. Fang Yuehe's countenance changed, but he said, "I don't know about these things. Although Mother has changed a little back then, there's not much difference between her and how she was in the past. I thought that she was cultivating outside and didn't know much about the matter of her suddenly distancing herself from you. Over 10 years ago, Fang Yuehe had only been in his 20s and had been cultivating outside. Therefore, he naturally did not know about the situation back at home. However, when he heard Fang Xinjian's question, he assured him, "As long as there's a record of these things, I'll definitely be able to help you find out. Xinjian, you can just wait here with ease." As he said that, Fang Yuehe chatted with Fang Xinjian about daily life. It was only when he sensed that Fang Xinjian was wearing an impatient expression that he took his leave in a low voice. "Xinjian, you haven't returned home for a very long time. I've arranged a place for you to stay. Do you want to?" Fang Xinjian waved his hand and said, "There's no need to bother about me. I've left a stream of sword intent on you. If I want to look for you, I'll be able to do so at any time." With that, he waved his hand and dismissed Fang Yuehe. As for the Thunder Monarch, who had wanted to meet him a few times, Fang Xinjian could not be bothered with him. Seeing the coldness and a hint of impatience on Fang Xinjian's face, the Thunder Monarch retreated obediently. Then the orders were passed down from the Federation's upper echelon, and all the scouts, special agents, and soldiers in the surroundings retreated silently. No one else dared to get close to the Fang clan's manor. Looking at the ruins before them, the Black Mage King seemed to have made a decision. He suddenly asked, "Imperial Preceptor, is this where you lived when you were young?" Fang Xinjian nodded and asked, "Why?" The Gold Mage King said, "We seem to sense the aura of black magic here. It's very powerful black magic." Fang Xinjian's gaze narrowed slightly as he turned to look over. In fact, when the Gold Mage King and Black Mage King had just arrived at the Fang clan's ruins, they had already sensed the aura of black magic. However, although they were surprised, they had planned to investigate in secret to see if it was related to how powerful Fang Xinjian was. However, after hearing the news from the Thunder Monarch, they did not plan on resisting for the time being. Therefore, they revealed this discovery directly. Hearing what the two of them said, Fang Xinjian asked, "How powerful is it? Can you sense what kind of black magic it is?" "It's hard to say for sure." The Gold Mage King gave it some thought and said, "There are traces of gold faction black magic performed by Tiandao here. As it was just performed not too long ago, the remnants of diabolic energy are extremely strong. However, there are also traces of another black magic that is extremely mysterious, distant, and powerful. I can sense that the waves it left behind surpass all the black magic performed by Tiandao. It's black magic that is at least level 15 or above. However, too much time has passed, and we can't sense it clearly. We're unable to ascertain which faction of black magic it is." "Black magic," Fang Xinjian said. "Could it be the power of Magic Prince?" The Black Mage King shook his head. "The two are different. We can sense the difference. Moreover, powerful black magic that can be left behind for many years can't possibly be the work of Magic Prince knights from Demonic City." Fang Xinjian's gaze swept across the ruins. This was the Fang clan's courtyard that he had stayed in for 17 years and was extremely familiar with in the past. However, right now, it seemed to exude an unfamiliar aura. "If you guys are given time to investigate, will you be able to find out what kind of black magic it is?" Hearing Fang Xinjian's question, the Black Mage King looked at the Gold Mage King. In order to search for traces of black magic in the past, the gold-robed faction's powers were the most suitable. The Gold Mage King said uncertainly, "I can only try my best." Therefore, over the next few days, Fang Xinjian stayed in Demonic City, waiting for the Gold Mage King to investigate the black magic remnants in the Fang clan. He also waited for Fang Yuehe to gather a lot of information about him when he was young. Chapter 843. Above the Fang clan's ruins stood a small building. It had been casually built by Fang Xinjian. The Black Mage King sat cross-legged outside, guarding the door like a guard. The Gold Mage King continued to walk on the ruins. Occasionally, golden light would flash, and a stretch of ruins would turn into the walls of the building. He was mumbling to himself, and his gaze flickered as if he was calculating something. In the small building, a tablet computer floated before Fang Xinjian, displaying the information that Fang Yuehe had been gathering over the past few days. With Fang Xinjian's current status and influence, no one would be able to stop him if he wanted to gather information. Despite this, he still frowned slightly as he looked at the information he had gathered. It was because after the Fang clan's collection of information, they discovered that the records regarding Fang Xinjian before he was 5 years old were all forged. As for what he had done before he was 5 years old, what he had learned, and where he had been, all the records had been destroyed under Li Shuanghua's orders. The whereabouts of the few people involved were also unknown. No matter how powerful the Fang clan's influence was, they had temporarily lost all leads at this point in their investigation. If they wished to continue investigating, they could only rely on the tactic of overwhelming numbers. However, it was unknown how long this would take. The records regarding Fang Xinjian after he was 5 years old were extremely detailed, and there was no difference from Fang Xinjian's past memories. However, this time around, Fang Xinjian looked at things from a different angle. He searched through all the students and teachers who had transferred, left, or disappeared from his primary school, middle school, and high school. With a single glance, it was almost the same as in his awakened memories. All the students and teachers who had transferred or left their jobs had all displayed various aspects that were superior to ordinary people after they left. Some were outstanding in their studies, some had outstanding looks, some had made a fortune in their families, and some had come into contact with extraordinary powers. There were many others. However, if he continued to investigate the reasons for their transfer, it would seem that everything had happened naturally. Each of them seemed to have done so willingly, and there were no signs of human intervention. However, it was precisely because of this that it did not make sense. If all of the students and teachers who had extraordinary abilities had left the school that Fang Xinjian was in of their own volition, then it would be the most unreasonable thing in itself. This meant that there was an extraordinary power pushing them from behind. On Earth, this extraordinary power was either Magic Prince or Black Magic. Looking at the Fang clan's ruins, Fang Xinjian's martial will scanned the Black Mage King and Gold Mage King, and a thought occurred to him. Could it be black magic? Since there were remnants of black magic in the Fang family mansion, Fang Xinjian could not help but suspect that the arrangements around Little Four were also influenced by the power of black magic. If that was the case, it meant that Li Shuanghua did not complete this matter by herself. There must be someone else behind her. The figure of the black-clothed man suddenly flashed across Fang Xinjian's mind. The other party had given him a purple fire seed, which was said to have given him the best sword talent in the world. It had taken away his emotions and left him with 5 years of lifespan. However, from the looks of it now, it seemed more like some kind of black magic. The whole thing was definitely not as simple as the purple fire had said. Fang Xinjian had even taken away Fang Xinjian's mother Fang Yueru's corpse. However, Fang Xinjian had not sensed any malicious intent from Fang Xinjian's sudden inspiration. This showed that Fang Xinjian had a close relationship with the Fang clan. Could this black-clothed man have something to do with Li Shuanghua and what he had gone through when he was young? However, now that things had come to this, if black magic was really involved, it would not be something that ordinary agents or magic prince warriors from the Fang clan would be able to find out. Fang Xinjian put aside his thoughts for now and continued to look at the information that Fang Yueha had sent him. Other than some of the contents that he had requested to be investigated, the last one was regarding the moon's relic. The various members of the upper echelon on Earth had kept the technological content on the moon's relics for their own research after obtaining them. Even Fang Yueha had not taken the initiative to reveal it to Li Qian and Fang Xinjian. At that time, Fang Yueha had even harbored the ambition to compete with Fang Xinjian or even replace him with high technological product. However, now that things had come to this, Fang Xinjian had displayed great prowess during the battle on the Tiandao Sea. Fang Yueha no longer dared to hide the matter regarding the moon's relic. Looking at the information regarding the moon's relics, Fang Xinjian let out a soft gasp. He had not expected that there would also be a huge word left on the back of the moon on his Earth. Would this not be the same as the parallel world that he had been to previously? Could it be that they were left behind by the same person? Fang Xinjian frowned slightly. If that was the case, then it was very likely that the person who had been to these two Earths was the same person. This also meant that someone else had transmigrated to Earth before Tiandao. There's no hurry regarding the moon's relics. Fang Xinjian's heart skipped a beat, and he realized that his sudden inspiration had a reaction. He closed his eyes and pondered for a moment before opening them again. There seemed to be electricity flashing in his eyes. There seems to be some clues regarding the past. At the thought of this, he appeared outside with a flash. He looked at the two Mage Kings and said, "Black Mage King, come with me." There are some places that I need you to check if there are any traces of black magic. Gold Mage King, I'll leave the black magic remnants here to you." After saying that, both he and the Black Mage King turned into a faint beam of light, cutting across the sky and dissipating into the clouds. Almost at the same time they moved out, the Thunder Monarch, Fang Yuehe, and Xia Yan all leaped up. Countless agents and magic prince knights also moved out, starting to search for the two of them. Fang Xinjian followed his sudden inspiration's senses and headed north after leaving Demonic City. In the blink of an eye, he crossed countless mountains and rivers and arrived in Xian country's capital. He saw a huge city that was situated on a plain. There were densely packed crowds of people, and the vehicles were like countless ants crawling about. Ever since Demonic City went through a metamorphosis, although Xian country had invested a tremendous amount of manpower into Demonic City, due to Demonic City's unique characteristics, many of the mortal companies and industries had been gradually withdrawn. This caused the total population of Demonic City to decrease, while the total population of the capital continued to increase. Right now, it had reached 30 million people, and there were countless satellite cities in the surroundings. It could be said to be the center of the entire Xian country. In the mortal world, almost all of the best schools and companies were gathered here. Demonic City and Demonic City were located in the north and south respectively. One became the center of mortals, while the other became the center of extraordinary humans. The capital. I remember that I've been studying here for a very long period of time in the past. Initially, he had not understood why Li Shuanghua had arranged for him to study in the capital. Now that he thought about it, if she wanted him to stay far away from the world of extraordinary humans, she would naturally want him to stay far away from Demonic City. If he had not come into contact with extraordinary powers in the end and returned to Demonic City to cultivate, he would probably be studying in a university in the capital at his current age. Looking at the city under his feet, Fang Xinjian leaped and arrived on a street in the capital. The Black Mage King, who was dressed in black, followed behind him like a quiet follower. Chapter 844. Looking at the unfamiliar streets, Fang Xinjian seemed as if he had been here before. Following his sudden inspiration senses, he led the Black Mage King through many turns and arrived at a bustling street. There were all sorts of commercial buildings and restaurants on both sides of the street, and there were people coming and going, displaying the prosperity of modern society. Just then, a young lady would occasionally size up Fang Xinjian with a puzzled look in her eyes. She followed Fang Xinjian all the way to the entrance of a hotel. When she saw the name of the hotel, a hint of surprise flashed in her eyes. The young lady plucked up her courage and walked up. She looked at Fang Xinjian and said, "Hello, are you Fang Xinjian?" Fang Xinjian's brows twitched. He had sensed the young lady's abnormality a long time ago. Hearing the young lady's question, he replied, "I'm Fang Xinjian. Who are you?" Although people on Earth had grasped extraordinary powers, almost all the magic prince knights were in Demonic City. Ordinary commoners were usually filled with doubts, disbelief, or simply believed in extraordinary powers. However, 3 months ago, Fang Xinjian had sent a large piece of land flying out of the atmospheric layer with a single sword attack in Demonic City. This had taken the entire world by surprise, and it had become an explosive piece of news. However, during that incident, only people had managed to capture a blurry silhouette of Fang Xinjian. No one had managed to capture his actual image. Thereafter, under the government's cover-up, this piece of news quickly calmed down. In the age of the Internet, it was covered up by all sorts of news regarding celebrities, sports, and entertainment. However, now that Demonic City was said to have experienced a great earthquake due to the destruction of Tiandao, this had become a new topic of discussion. Therefore, in the world of extraordinary powers, Fang Xinjian's name was very well known. However, in the world of ordinary people, his reputation was close to non-existent. Hearing Fang Xinjian's reply, a hint of surprise flashed on the young lady's face. It's really you. I thought it was you just now, but you've become much more handsome, so I'm not too sure anymore. Seeing Fang Xinjian's puzzled expression, the young lady said, Don't you recognize me anymore? I'm Zhao Yana. I was in the same class as you in junior high. Zhao Yana? Fang Xinjian was slightly stunned. He quickly searched through his mind. With his current brain power, as long as he could remember something, he could retrieve almost any memory in an instant. In an instant, his eyes narrowed slightly, and the image of a little girl appeared in his mind. She was indeed 70 to 80% similar to the girl in front of him. However, after a few years of puberty, her eyes had become bigger and more spirited, and the baby fat on her cheeks had also disappeared. She had transformed from an ugly duckling into a beautiful young lady. Fang Xinjian recalled that she was indeed a classmate of his when he was in junior high. However, she had transferred to another school in the 3rd year of junior high. Now that he thought about it, was it because she was too beautiful that she was sent away? Through information currents, Fang Xinjian asked the Black Mage King, Does this woman have the aura of black magic on her? The Black Mage King threw a strange glance at Zhao Yana, as if wondering why Fang Xinjian would ask this question. He had not sensed that she was a mage. However, when he heard Fang Xinjian's question, he still sent out his martial will and scanned Zhao Yina's body. At the next moment, his gaze narrowed and he said, It's a little strange, but it's very vague. Will you be able to kill her? Fang Xinjian frowned slightly, appearing a little displeased. Must you kill her? The Black Mage King was only testing the waters. When he saw the displeased expression on Fang Xinjian's face, he immediately said, It's fine if you don't kill her, but you'll need to spend a little more time. I'll slowly use my martial will to search for that hint of remnant waves. That black magic seems to have been performed for far too long, and only a hint of it is left on her body. I'll need over half an hour to complete it. However, regardless of whether I kill her or not, I don't have full confidence that I'll be able to understand it. It's been too long, and the black magic's remnant waves are too little. Fang Xinjian said, It's fine. Just do your best. Their exchange was completed at lightning speed through information current. However, to ordinary people, they merely exchanged a glance. Seeing that Fang Xinjian did not reply, Zhao Yana continued, Are you also here to participate in today's class gathering? I heard that many of our classmates from the same class in junior high are here. Junior high school class gathering? This is the place? Fang Xinjian looked at the hotel before him, and a hint of comprehension flashed in his eyes. Was this the guidance from his sudden inspiration? He continued to ask, Will the few classmates who transferred schools in the past be here as well? I don't know. The class monitor is the one contacting them. I don't know who exactly is here and who isn't. Zhao Yana looked at Fang Xinjian and said with a smile, Ever since you entered high school, we haven't been able to get in touch with you. We thought that you wouldn't be coming this time around either. Fang Xinjian did not reply to Zhao Yina's question. Right now, he was very curious as to whether all of his classmates from junior high had traces of black magic on them as well. However, Zhao Yana asked, Is this old grandpa also your friend? Fang Xinjian threw a glance at the Black Mage King and said through information currents, You can hide at the side later on. Seeing that the Black Mage King had left, Fang Xinjian said, He's just a friend. Where's the gathering? Let's go take a look. The two of them went up to the 2nd floor of the hotel and headed in the direction of a private room. Before they got close, they heard a series of loud laughter. Zhao Yana opened the door and saw over 10 young men and women. They were divided into a few groups and gathered together to chat. It was a very lively scene. However, she could still faintly see a curly-haired young man in the middle. He had an arrogant disposition, like a tree that reached the clouds, or like the moon that was surrounded by stars. he subconsciously attracted everyone's attention. Seeing Zhao Yina's appearance, a few girls who were familiar with her immediately went up to greet her. "Yina, you're finally here. We've been waiting for you for a long time." "Zhao Yina, aren't you going to introduce this person next to you?" "Haha, he can't be your boyfriend, right?" Zhao Yina smiled and slapped the girl who was talking nonsense. "Can't you guys tell? He's Fang Xinjian." "Ah, Fang Xinjian?" A few people in the room revealed astonished expressions. They had gathered a few times after graduating from junior high, and a few of their classmates had kept in touch. However, Fang Xinjian seemed to have disappeared after graduating from junior high, and no one had been able to get in touch with him. However, they had not been very familiar with Fang Xinjian since junior high, and they had even lost contact with him after that. After greeting each other, they split up into groups of 2s and 3s and started chatting. However, a round-faced guy walked up to Fang Xinjian and said, "Damn, where have you been after junior high? None of us were able to get in touch with you." Fang Xinjian casually found a chair and sat down, saying, "I've returned to Demonic City." "So you've returned to Demonic City?" At the next moment, he let out a cry and said, "Were you alright during the great earthquake in Demonic City?" "I wasn't there at that time, so I was fine." That's good, that's good. I saw the news that a large number of buildings in the city center collapsed." The round-faced young man shook his head. "Speaking of which, you actually returned to Demonic City. No wonder we couldn't find you. Why, do you still remember me?" Chapter 845. Looking at the round-faced young man's curious gaze, Fang Xinjian frowned. He tried to recall for a moment before saying, "Sun Zhongping? It's been so many years since we last met. How did you become so much more handsome? Did you go for plastic surgery?" Fang Xinjian had attained the divine level and completed his conjured physique. Sword intense circled both inside and outside of his body. Both his physique and face looked even more handsome than before. To ordinary people, he would naturally appear to be extremely handsome. Sun Zhongping and Zhao Yina were not the only ones who felt this way. A few other girls would also occasionally take a few glances at Fang Xinjian, whispering to each other, and occasionally breaking out into laughter. One of them, who had a tall and slender figure and was wearing a set of branded casual clothes, was the prettiest. She seemed to be the leader of the group. A slightly plump girl next to her said, "Really, that Fang Xinjian has become so handsome and classy. Haha, are you flirting again? Are you thinking of wooing him? Don't you guys feel that he looks a little like that celebrity?" That. Hearing the few girls banter, the young lady by the name of Feng Rulei looked at Fang Xinjian with a strange expression. She was one of the most beautiful girls present, and the only one who could be compared to her was Zhao Yina. However, Zhao Yina still appeared a little young and inexperienced, lacking a hint of her flirtatiousness. Feng Rulei had always been very confident in her looks and figure. Even in the film academy, where there were many beautiful girls, she was still the class beauty and faculty beauty. Compared to the other boys and girls who were very understanding, Feng Rulei had been enlightened a long time ago and understood the cruelty of society. Initially, she had not wanted to come to this junior high-class reunion. After all, she had only stayed in the class for a semester before leaving. She did not have much of a relationship with most of the people there. But when the class leader mentioned that her classmate Huang Youxiang's father became a high-ranking official, she rushed over. Not only did she wear her most expensive clothes, but she also spent a lot of effort to dress herself up. Huang Youxiang was the curly-haired guy who seemed to be the center of the crowd. A few guys and girls who matured earlier had already surrounded him, trying to curry favor with him and get close to him. Looking at Huang Youxiang, who was chatting animatedly with a few guys, Feng Rulei looked toward Fang Xinjian, who was in the distance. At least in terms of appearance, Fang Xinjian was more attractive to her. But what's the use of being handsome? A woman's youth is only for a few years. I'm not here to look for a handsome guy. Huang Youxiang's father has entered the ministry. He is the real stock with the potential. However, when Feng Ruliai saw Fang Xinjian's starry eyes that seemed to be flashing with a faint glow, her heart softened a little. A few minutes later, she walked over. When the round-faced guy next to Fang Xinjian saw Feng Ruliai's arrival, he immediately stuttered and said anxiously, "Feng Ruliai, you're here as well." Feng Ruliai had seen too many guys like this before. She merely smiled reservedly, looked at Fang Xinjian, and said, "Long time no see, Fang Xinjian. Which university are you studying in now?" Fang Xinjian threw a glance at Feng Ruliai. He had only come here with the Black Mage King to search for traces of black magic remnants. He was not interested in interacting with these students at all. He said casually, "I'm not studying anymore." Hearing Fang Xinjian's reply, Feng Ruliai frowned. However, when she saw his face, she still took in a deep breath and asked, "Then are you working?" "I don't have a job," Fang Xinjian said calmly. "Oh." Hearing this, Feng Ruliai's interest in Fang Xinjian decreased tremendously. If Fang Xinjian did not study or work, she would not be interested even if he were a profligate son of a wealthy family. After throwing a final glance at Fang Xinjian's face, a hint of pity flashed in Feng Ruliai's eyes, but she retreated. After casually sending this girl away, Sun Zhongping, who was next to Fang Xinjian, was still extremely excited after the other party left. He said, "The goddess spoke to us. Do you think she's interested in us?" Fang Xinjian did not reply. He was trying to use his martial will to scan everyone's bodies, but he was unable to sense the existence of black magic like the Black Mage King. He wondered if it was because he was immune to black magic. After Feng Ruliai returned to her seat, a group of girls gathered around her. They smiled and asked, "Ruliai, you went to look for Fang Xinjian? What did you guys talk about?" "Nothing much," Feng Ruliai said calmly. However, she was secretly on guard. Feng Ruliai, you must become a successful woman. Even if your husband doesn't come from a wealthy family or a high-ranking official, he must at least be a dragon or phoenix among men. You mustn't look at appearances anymore." The attention of the curly-haired young man, Huang Youxiang, had been focused on Feng Ruliai all this while. In fact, he had liked Feng Ruliai since junior high, but it was just a faint feeling. Meeting her again today, she had changed a lot, giving him an even more amazing feeling. Initially, he had felt a little displeased when he saw her getting close to Fang Xinjian. However, he heaved a sigh of relief when the two of them separated after exchanging a few words. A short moment later, he went up to Feng Ruliai and started chatting with her. "Feng Ruliai, I heard that you've gotten into the Capital Film Academy? That's really amazing. It's like a huge army crossing a single log bridge. I was just lucky. I was only planning on accompanying others to take the exam," Feng Ruliai said with a smile. "What about you? I heard that you're attending a university in the capital?" "Central University's Finance Department." There was a hint of pride on Huang Youxiang's face. He had relied on his own abilities to be able to get into the best university in Xian country. This was something that he was rather proud of. Hearing Huang Youxiang's reply, a hint of admiration appeared on Feng Ruliai's face. "You're amazing. Central University's cutoff point was the highest last year, right? You're really a top student. Why did you think of choosing the economics department? Isn't your family a government official?" Huang Youxiang smiled. "I'm just more interested in this area. Right now, the development of the economy is a major trend, and it concerns the rise and fall of a country. You know about the financial crisis 2 years ago, right? That was a problem that affected the entire world. It affected everyone's lives from the financial aspect to the economic aspect, directly affecting exports. The increase in domestic demand is unable to make up for the decrease in foreign demand for domestic imports. Feng Ruliai listened to Huang Youxiang speak with fervor and assurance with a serious expression. She did not really understand the economics and finance that he was talking about. However, she felt that the way he spoke was indeed very charming. He was definitely not an ordinary second-generation idiot. After chatting for a while, Feng Ruliai subconsciously threw a glance in Fang Xinjian's direction. However, she discovered that he had disappeared at some point in time. Has he left? That's good too. Although he's handsome, he's far inferior to Huang Youxiang in terms of both knowledge and inner qualities. Sigh, it'd be great if Huang Youxiang was as handsome as him. Sighing inwardly, Feng Ruliai looked at Huang Youxiang with an even more serious expression, as if she was listening to him attentively. Simultaneously, Fang Xinjian and the Black Mage King had once again arrived above the clouds. Listening to the Black Mage King's story, Fang Xinjian's gaze also revealed a grim expression. In another hotel, the door to a private room was suddenly knocked open, and a man wearing a uniform walked in. At the sight of this scene, Huang Youxiang frowned, stood up, and said, "Which department are you guys from? Why did you barge in? Who's your leader?" The man in the lead threw him a cold glance. "I'm sorry, this concerns the country's secrets. We'll still need your cooperation for some things." He then waved his hand and said, "Bring all of them away." Several tens of men entered in a single file. Ignoring everyone's struggles and clamoring, they brought everyone out. Huang Youxiang's eyes narrowed, and he took out his phone, wanting to make a call. However, his phone was grabbed by the man in the lead, and with a smack, it became deformed. Huang Youxiang gulped and looked at the man in shock and fury. "I'm sorry. Please come with me. We'll compensate you for all your losses after this." Chapter 846. Just like that, Huang Youxiang and the others were sent to the car. Their heads were covered and they stayed in the car for a full 1.5 hours. It seemed that they had already left the capital. When their heads were removed, they found themselves in an interrogation room. There were 2 men in uniform sitting in front of each of them. Huang Youxiang frowned. "Which department are you guys from? Why are you arresting me?" Although he still appeared to be very imposing, there was a hint of panic in his heart. The situation before him was already far beyond his control. The staff sitting in front of him were expressionless as they asked him about his basic situation one by one. Huang Youxiang did not want to cooperate, but when he saw the hint of coldness in the other party's eyes, he still answered truthfully in the end. After all, his basic information was not a secret, and the other party's questions and answers were just a formality. Finally, a man with thick eyebrows and big eyes asked, "Do you know who Fang Xinjian is?" After a full 4 hours, Huang Youxiang felt as if he had been bombarded by people one after another. He was dizzy from all the questions and his ears were ringing. He was extremely mentally exhausted, and all he could think about was the name Fang Xinjian. During these 4 hours, the other party took turns to ask him about things related to Fang Xinjian bit by bit, as if they were spinning silk from cocoons. They did not even let go of the trivial things from his junior high school days. It was as if they were interrogating a major case. When he came out again and met up with the other junior high school students, he saw that everyone else was also exhausted. A tanned and thin young man in sportswear saw Huang Youxiang come out and immediately went up to him to ask, "Huang Youxiang, how was it? Were they also asking you about Fang Xinjian?" This person seemed to be an extroverted person, and there was a lively look on his face. He was their former class monitor, as well as the leader of this gathering. Huang Youxiang's brows twitched slightly as he said, "You were also asked the same thing?" Without waiting for the class monitor to nod, another few students complained, "They've been asking for almost 4 hours. And they only asked about Fang Xinjian and junior high school. I feel like every single one of my brain cells has been squeezed out by them." Everyone began to complain, and there were some who looked worried. It seemed that the matter in front of them was not ordinary, and they were worried that they had gotten into trouble. Wang Youxiang walked up to Feng Ruliai. When he saw her slightly messy hair and fatigued expression, he asked out of concern, "Ruliai, are you all right?" "I'm fine." Feng Ruliai shook her head. "It's just that I'm a little tired after being questioned for so long." Wang Youxiang sighed. "You were also asked about Feng Xinjian and what happened in junior high." Feng Ruliai nodded with a grim countenance. After being tormented for almost 4 hours, no matter how patient she was, she still felt extremely annoyed. Wang Youxiang snorted and said, "Rulei, don't worry. I'll go ask a few uncles when I get out. I definitely won't suffer this loss for nothing." Feng Ruliai revealed a hint of a smile and tried to persuade him, "There's no need to go through so much trouble. It's just a small matter. It won't be good if you affect uncle." Although Wang Youxiang himself was also a little bewildered by this matter, how could he possibly back down after hearing what his goddess had said? He said confidently, "Don't worry. I can tell that they're neither from the military nor from the Commission for Discipline Inspection. It's probably not a big deal. It's just that some people are using a chicken feather as a token of authority. I'll definitely investigate what's going on." Feng Ruliai smiled and did not say anything. She knew that young men like him loved to put on a strong front before her and did not think much of it. It was just that she felt extremely puzzled by this matter. "Feng Xinjian. Who on earth is he?" The class monitor asked curiously. "Who on earth do you guys think Feng Xinjian is? To think that they captured so many of us just to ask about his information? He can't be a spy, right? A special agent from another country? The country wants to capture him now? How is that possible? Has he committed murder and broken the law? Even if he committed murder, the police will be the ones to look for him. Moreover, why would they make such a big move to capture all of us for questioning?" Hearing everyone's various guesses, Wang Youxiang let out a cold snort and said to Feng Ruliai, "This Feng Xinjian must have committed some major crime. Otherwise, it's impossible for them to conduct such a strict search. He must have disappeared after junior high school, and in the few years that followed, he must have gone down the wrong path." Feng Ruliai frowned, but she did not refute him. After all, this was the situation they were in. However, at the thought of that handsome figure, a hint of pity flashed in her eyes. Over 10 minutes later, just as everyone was getting increasingly impatient, a tall man walked in and said, "I'm sorry, everyone. For the sake of national security, we've asked for your cooperation. There's no problem now. Everyone can head out in a while. However, before we head out, I have a few things to say. Firstly, please don't reveal anything related to this place. Secondly, don't say anything about Feng Xinjian. Don't ask and don't investigate." Among the crowd, there were a few people who had been holding back their anger. When they saw the tall man speaking, they still wanted to rebuke and mock him. However, when the tall man's cold gaze swept past them, they shuddered and could no longer muster up any thoughts of resisting. Therefore, Wang Youxiang and the others were led out by the staff members. It was only then that they realized that they were in an underground fortification. When they came out from the surface, they found themselves in an inconspicuous small building. Looking at this setup, the thoughts of various mysterious organizations, spy agencies, and intelligence influences gushed into their minds. However, they did not dare to look around or say anything else. They left the small building hurriedly and saw a bus appearing outside. When Wang Youxiang saw the middle-aged man standing in front of the bus, he said in astonishment, "Father?" His father nodded toward everyone and said, "Get on the bus." Wang Youxiang suddenly felt a little uneasy. It was because he had never seen his father wearing such a solemn expression before. After they got on the bus and it started moving, Wang Youxiang asked uneasily, "Father? What on earth is going on this time? Did that Feng Xinjian commit some serious crime and implicate us?" Will it affect our family? His father frowned and said, It's hard to say. He had wanted to talk about it at home so that the other people on the bus would not hear him. However, after thinking about it, he shook his head. According to what the higher-ups had said, it did not matter even if these people knew about it. Therefore, he said, it's indeed about that Fang Xinjian. However, it's not that Fang Xinjian has committed any crime. It's that this person. Chapter 847. He gave it some thought and suddenly felt that it was a little hard to describe. A moment later, he said, a few months ago, a piece of land soared into the sky in Demonic City. Do you know about this? Wang Youxiang was stunned for a moment. He had not expected his father to bring this up. At the next moment, the other party continued, that was done by Fang Xinjian. What? Wang Youxiang was in disbelief. He then asked, he detonated a nuclear warhead? In his opinion, this would only be possible if a nuclear warhead was detonated. However, the other party shook his head and said, he tossed that piece of land into outer space with a single sword attack. When Wang Youxiang's father thought of this, he also felt that it was like a dream, as if he was listening to a fairy tale. In fact, if it was not because he had entered the ministry this year and taken up an important position, it was unlikely that he would know the details. The Earth's Federation and the 5 great clans had always kept the news regarding Magic Prince under lockdown. After all, as the ruling class of the entire Earth, how could they possibly allow ordinary people to come into contact with extraordinary powers? No one would want to experience the rise of the 5 great clans again. For this reason, they had even turned the entire demonic city into a center for extraordinary humans, relocating countless companies, departments, factories, and citizens. On the other hand, Wang Youxiang was still wearing an astonished expression as he listened to his father continue. Fang Xinjian is a person who can take on many countries single-handedly. He's an invincible character who rules over the world. However, the fact that you're his classmate might not necessarily be a good thing. It's hard to say whether this is a blessing or a curse. Wang Youxiang then asked, then why did you capture us for questioning? His father shook his head and said, I heard that this was personally ordered by Fang Xinjian. I don't know the exact reason either. Personally ordered by him? Wang Youxiang's gaze froze and he thought of Fang Xinjian. However, he felt that the difference between him and Fang Xinjian was like the difference between clouds and mud. Feng Ruliai was seated at the back of the two of them. When she heard what Wang Youxiang's father said, she first did not believe it. Then she was astonished. A short moment later, a hint of bitterness flashed in the corners of her eyes. She started to regret her carelessness at the gathering. She felt that she might have missed out on the greatest opportunity in her life. At the back of the bus, the other students who heard this exchanged a glance. Their eyes were filled with astonishment. On the other side of the sky, Fang Xinjian nodded slightly after hearing the results of the interrogation. A stream of information was transmitted back at light speed. There's no need to care about the rest. Just pretend that this never happened. Fang Yue asked again, then the matter we talked about earlier. There are mages on Earth who left a signal on them. Based on the Black Mage King's conjecture, this means that they can send out signals to existences in other parallel universes. They're like lighthouses in the sea, guiding people from parallel worlds over. We've already erased the method, but since it's been so long, we can't be sure if anyone from the parallel world will return. This time around, not only had the Black Mage King discovered magic remnants, but they were also not ordinary magic remnants. They were means to transmit information to the microscopic world and the ends of spacetime. To be able to use such a method, if it was a night, it meant that the other party had already surpassed the realm of microscopic realm, or even the realm of impeccable, and had reached the realm of entering emptiness. This person was probably a great expert at Tier 6 of the divine level or above. However, since it was done by black magic, then this might not necessarily be the case. After all, black magic could use diabolic energy to allow mages to do many things that surpass their own realm. Fang Xinjian also went through the information in his mind, and he felt that the scene before him was getting increasingly foggy. Based on his investigations, a total of 3 experts from parallel worlds had come to Earth before. The first person should have arrived 16 years ago. This person was upright and peaceful. After arriving, he did not stir up any trouble nor did he participate in any battles. He merely left after imparting the magic print. The second person should have arrived 7 to 8 years ago, but this person was even more cautious. No one even knew of his arrival, yet he secretly changed the people around Fang Xinjian. Not only did he plant black magic on them and change the direction of their lives, but he also kept on sending out signals to other timelines. This person's actions were even more unclear and unfathomable compared to the previous person. The third person was Tiandao, who had been defeated by Fang Xinjian earlier. Although Fang Xinjian did not know what Tiandao's objective was, from the information that the Earth's Federation had gathered, Tiandao's initial target was the Fang clan's manor. At the thought of the black magic remnants in the Fang clan's manor, Fang Xinjian's eyes unknowingly revealed a contemplative expression. In Miracle World, just as Fang Xinjian was returning to Demonic City, a storm was raging in the land. In the vast plains in the north of the empire, there was a place where the waters were connected to the sky and where herds of cattle and sheep gathered. Countless tents were connected together, spanning several tens of leagues. There was a great hubbub of voices, and there was an endless stream of herdsmen coming and going. In the center, a huge and majestic city rose from the ground. It was the capital of the Steel Lion Kingdom, Lionheart City. This city was simple and majestic, and it was filled with an iron-blooded aura. It was said that the first emperor of the Steel Lion Kingdom had built it within a single night, extracting ores from several hundred to several thousand meters underground. Right now, in Lionheart City, the sound of bells rang out incessantly, and countless generals of the Steel Lion Kingdom gathered in the hall. These generals and warriors all had small braids, and there were all sorts of tattoos on their shoulders, backs, and faces. They were all extremely tall, each of them appearing to be at least 2 meters tall, and they were filled with a valiant aura. If there were any night experts here, they would be able to see that these generals were all breathing and expelling ether particles as they walked. These several hundred generals were all second transition experts. However, the most terrifying ones were the few people at the very front of the hall. Just by standing there, they were able to sway sunlight and distort one's vision. Each and every one of their movements could change the space. They were clearly divine-level experts with great martial arts. One of them had a height of 3 meters, and his entire body was covered with abnormally thick fur. He was wearing an unknown beast skin and exuded an overwhelming ferocious aura. He looked more like a ferocious beast than a human. They heard him say, "Do you know why His Majesty has summoned us for an audience this time?" Next to him was a man with a short stature but muscular build. His eyes gleamed brightly, and there was a divine eagle perched on his shoulder. He said, "Could it be that Prince Yuxian has not thought of this? The reason why His Majesty has summoned us here is naturally because of the great chaos in the south. Krieg is a great threat to our Steel Lion Kingdom. We have been unable to head south many times, and it's all because of him. Now that the Empire is in chaos and has yet to recover, this is a great opportunity for us." Chapter 848. There were countless tribes in the plains. The Steel Lion Kingdom was said to have unified the plains, and their leader called himself the Heavenly Lion King. He was a descendant of the ancient Heavenly Lion and was worshipped by the hundreds of tribes in the plains. Therefore, in reality, the Steel Lion Kingdom was an amalgamation of countless tribes. Other than the leader, the Heavenly Lion King, there were also Prince Suoxian and Prince Yuxian. They were the leaders of the Goshawk tribe and the Heavenly Wolf tribe respectively. They had always been the most authoritative people in the Steel Lion Kingdom aside from the Heavenly Lion King. The man known as Prince Yuxian had a height of 3 meters and was covered in thick hair. The hair on his face made it hard for others to see his true appearance. He was the leader of the Heavenly Wolf tribe. After hearing what the other party said, he said coldly, "The Krieg royal family has repeatedly stopped me from heading south and killed my tribe's warriors. This time around, it's really detestable that I wasn't able to kill them personally." The man with a divine eagle on his shoulder was the leader of the Goshawk tribe, the Steel Lion Kingdom's Prince Zhuxian. He was less than 1.7 meters tall and appeared even shorter before Prince Yuxian. However, his eyes gleamed, and the light rays around him twisted, revealing his majestic cultivation. The eagle on his shoulder was extraordinarily handsome. As he looked around, the generals of the Steel Lion Kingdom who were looked at by him felt as if there were needles on their backs. Prince Zhuxian said, "Although the Krieg royal family has been wiped out, Sinkota still has a few divine-level experts. Their imperial preceptor, Fang Xinjian, is known as the Sword Overlord. His sword arts are unrivaled in the southwest, and he isn't to be underestimated." However, Prince Yuxian revealed a disdainful expression. "They're just a bunch of useless people who have holed up in the south. As long as your majesty agrees, I'll be able to wipe out their entire clan single-handedly." Prince Zhuxian smiled and did not rebut him. He merely said, "Everyone knows of Prince Yuxian's bravery." However, he knew that although Prince Yuxian appeared to be rash and reckless, it was just a layer of his disguise. He definitely did not look down on the South, as he had said. The purpose of him saying this was to boost the morale of the people in the hall and pave the way for them to head south. At the thought of this, Prince Zhuxian's eyes narrowed slightly as he thought to himself, "It seems that the king has made up his mind. Otherwise, this big guy wouldn't have dared to spread the news so early." Just as everyone in the hall was discussing, a loud bellow rang out. The Heavenly Lion King had arrived. Everyone felt a formless pressure descend from the sky. The sunlight became distorted, and space trembled. There seemed to be a huge lion with golden fur roaring furiously in the void. It was as if there was a huge lion that was completely golden in color. Following that, a majestic golden light descended from the sky. When everyone came to their senses, a hazy figure with an indistinguishable face was already sitting on the throne. Everyone's heart skipped a beat when they saw the figure. Ever since the world's metamorphosis started, the Heavenly Lion King's cultivation had improved by leaps and bounds, becoming increasingly unfathomable with each passing day. This was especially the case 2 months ago. His body had been surrounded by distorted light rays and space, and he seemed to be getting more and more hazy by the day. It was said that this was because his martial will had grown too rapidly and dissipated around his body, causing the space to be unstable. Looking at it today, it seemed to be clearer than before. This did not mean that Fang Xinjian's martial will had deteriorated. Instead, it meant that his control over his own martial will had become even deeper, and he was about to attain a breakthrough. The Heavenly Wolf Prince Yuxian bowed and said, "Congratulations, Your Majesty. You'll be able to attain a breakthrough to the 6th tier soon." A soft laugh rang out from the hazy figure. "I'll be borrowing Prince Yuxian's auspicious words." Following that, a cough rang out, and a solemn atmosphere immediately spread out across the entire hall. The Heavenly Lion King said coldly, "This time around, I intend to head south to quell Sinkota. What do you all think?" The Heavenly Lion King's gaze was eerie and cold, as if it was material. Everyone felt as if they were being swept by strong gales from the heavens when his gaze swept past them. Even their blood and thoughts felt as if they had instantly frozen up. In the entire hall, only the 6 people at the very front seemed to be fine. They were the 6 divine-level experts led by Prince Zhuxian and the left and right virtuous. The 6 of them, together with the 5 divine-level experts who were guarding the plains, were the 11 divine-level experts of the Steel Lion Kingdom, with the exception of the Heavenly Lion King. They were known as the 11 Sacred Generals, and they could be said to be extremely powerful. No one in the plains would be able to stop them. Hearing the Heavenly Lion King's words, the Heavenly Wolf Prince Yuxian was the first to step forward and say, "The South is weak and has suffered from internal strife. Right now, it's just a bunch of useless people who are trying to steal the country. I'm willing to head over and help Your Majesty occupy the 8 regions of the South. Prince Yuxian has underestimated the enemy." Just then, a white-bearded old man with slightly tanned skin, many braids on his head, and a rainbow-colored feather in front of his forehead stepped forward and said, "Although the Krieg royal family has been wiped out, according to our investigations, the person in charge of the South, Fang Xinjian, is definitely not someone easy to deal with. It has only been 3 years since his debut, yet he has already stepped into the divine level from an ordinary first transition. He is even able to face off against Alexander alone and is probably already a 4th or even 5th tier expert. Furthermore, he was able to survive the evil god ritual and is now ruling over the South. He must not be underestimated." This old man was the most experienced of the 11 sacred generals, the sun-shooting sacred general. He was known as the best archer in the plains. The sun-shooting sacred general is right. Prince Yuxian also stepped forward and said, "Your Majesty, based on what I know, that Fang Xinjian currently has at least 6 divine-level experts under him. He has once fought against someone in the Great Western region and is suspected to have used microscopic means. He has also fought against the Sacred Fire Order's patriarch in the Sand Country's capital, and it's said that he has slashed the foundations of 1 million people in the Sand Country. If we're to head south, this person will definitely be the crux. We mustn't underestimate him." Prince Wuxian let out a cold snort and said, "The 2 of you are thinking too highly of those lowly commoners in the south. You're destroying the prestige of our Steel Wolf Kingdom." The sun-shooting sacred general said solemnly, "When we battle, a country can be destroyed with a single thought. Once a great battle breaks out, there will be the danger of the world being destroyed. We mustn't be careless." The white-haired old man then looked at the Heavenly Lion King and said, "Your Majesty, if we wish to head south, we'll need to get to the bottom of that Fang Xinjian. Right now, this person is the strongest person in the south, and the entire country's power belongs to him. As long as we wipe him out, there's nothing to worry about." A clear and cold voice rang out from that blurry figure. "The sun-shooting sacred general is right." Prince Wuxian said, "Since that Fang Xinjian has offended the sacred fire sect of the Sand Country, why don't Your Majesty send an envoy to join forces with the Sand Country and attack the south together?" "All right," the Heavenly Lion King said, nodding slowly. Another young man with a thin and weak figure and pale skin, as if he had just recovered from a great illness, walked out. This person was the Morning Abyss Sacred General, one of the 11 Sacred Generals. He had spent his entire life researching the theories of medicine and poisons. Although he was not the strongest out of the 11 Sacred Generals, he was the one who instilled the most fear in others. He said eerily, "Your Majesty, please bestow me with external medicine so that I can refine that myriad poison and souls. This medicine can isolate the inside from the outside, causing ether to clog up. Even a Tier 5 divine-level expert would have 30% of their battle prowess wiped out if they were to get hit by it." The myriad poison and souls was a secret medicine that the Morning Abyss Sacred General had inherited. However, the refining method was too vicious, and it required countless young beasts and slaves to refine. Usually, it would be impossible for the Morning Abyss Sacred General to agree to it. However, the Heavenly Lion King said calmly, "Approved." Chapter 849. Prince Wuxian added, The evil god ritual in the south has caused the imperial capital to be completely destroyed. There are faint traces of the Mage Association behind this. The Black Mage King is a great demon, and his sorcery is amazing. He can do things that ordinary divine-level experts are unable to do, so we must guard against him. That's right. It's very likely that Fang Xinjian has already joined the Mage Association. Hearing the Heavenly Lion King's reply, everyone present was shocked. The Mage Association had been established in this world for a very long time. Although there were only the black, red, and gold factions in it, they were still not to be underestimated. Prince Zhuxian immediately said, "Your Majesty, if the Mage Association's Black Mage King is the person behind Fang Xinjian, then we mustn't start a war easily. This person's sorcery is amazing." A gush of aura gushed out from the Heavenly Lion King's body, stopping Prince Zhuxian from continuing. The Heavenly Lion King said, "Prince Zhuxian's worries aren't unreasonable. However, when it comes to the mages and the liberal church's guardian kings, our opponent is only that Fang Xinjian." Hearing the Heavenly Lion King's reply, everyone was stunned and astonishment flashed in their gazes. They had not expected that the Holy Sea of Truth would be adding fuel to the fire this time around. Virtuous serious Prince Yuxian said happily, "Haha, with the Guardian King helping us, we'll no longer have to worry about the threat from the Mage Association. Fang Xinjian is alone, and our tribe's warriors will definitely be able to kill him." As the saying goes, one should be able to predict the enemy from a broad perspective. A man dressed in hemp clothes, who appeared to have gone through many hardships and seemed like an ascetic monk, spoke up. This person was the Misery Sea Sacred General of the 11 Sacred Generals. He was a cultivation fanatic who was constantly cultivating. He could be said to be the one with the strongest cultivation heart amongst the 11 Sacred Generals. Right now, the Misery Sea Sacred General said that Fang Xinjian was able to defeat the Sacred Fire Order's Patriarch and Alexander. We should treat him as a Tier 5 divine-level expert who has entered the microscopic realm. Even if all of us were to join forces and kill such an expert, the losses would still be tremendous. Everyone's preparations are already not bad, but why don't we add another formation? Formation? Prince Zhuxian asked. Not bad. The Misery Sea Sacred General said, other than the means that everyone has set up, why don't we set up another formation to lure Fang Xinjian into the formation and gather the power of the 11 Sacred Generals to kill him in one battle? Once Fang Xinjian is dead, the Southern Kingdom will be at our fingertip. I wonder what array the Misery Sea Sacred General wishes to set up? Asked Prince Zhuxian. I can set up the Wind Thunder God Perishing formation. However, Prince Zhuxian said with some dissatisfaction, this array formation consumes a lot of resources. It took too long. If we can kill Fang Xinjian, what are these materials and time? Said the Misery Sea Sacred General. The Heavenly Lion King pondered silently for a moment before interrupting everyone's discussion. He said, Misery Sea Sacred General, I'll give you a time limit of 3 months. Can you set up this formation? Yes, sir. All right, everyone, go back and make your preparations. We'll set the time limit at 3 months. After 3 months, we'll kill Fang Xinjian and take over the southwest region of the empire. Immediately, everyone came to an agreement to check and fill in the gap. By the time they confirmed that there were no mistakes, it was already midnight. Earth, Demonic City. Fang Xinjian sat cross-legged in midair, and the tablet in his hand displayed the Impasse Armor's creation technology that the Thunder Monarch had handed over. This was the scene where Fang Yuehe had seen the battle between the Impasse Armor and Tiandao the other day. He had reported it to Fang Xinjian and asked him to get the Thunder Monarch to hand it over. Of course, the Thunder Monarch was extremely unwilling. However, when faced with Fang Xinjian, who was currently dominating the world, there was nothing he could do. In the end, he still handed it over. Initially, He had not been very interested in the Thunder Monarch's technological armor. However, when he heard that it was made based on the moon's technology, he opened it up to take a look. However, after taking a look, his interest was piqued greatly. In his opinion, the impasse armor that the Thunder Monarch had created had already reached the microscopic level of the divine level. By converting a portion of the 4 fundamental forces, it created a powerful defense and attack prowess. However, the flaws of this armor were also very obvious. After all, it was a non-living object. If one was not a divine-level expert with a powerful martial will, they would not be able to freely change their position and move at superluminal speed. They would also lack the sudden inspiration's sensory ability. With that, it would be lacking in mobility and detection ability. Therefore, if they were to engage in a real battle, it would naturally not be a match for Tiandao. Moreover, Fang Xinjian could tell that although the Thunder Monarch had created this impasse armor, he did not know how it worked. He still did not fully understand many of the laws in the microscopic world. This was probably also related to the moon's relics. However, although the impasse armor had many flaws, Fang Xinjian still placed great importance on its strong and electromagnetic applications. If he could gain some experience from it, his battle prowess would be able to increase by another 30% or more. With that, he became even more interested in the moon's relics. He had thought that this relic would be the same as what he had seen in the parallel world. However, by the looks of it, the information contained in it was different. After the Gold Mage King calculates the magical remnants here, I should head to the moon to take a look. At the thought of this, Fang Xinjian decided to get Fang Yuehe to send over the information on the moon's relics that Earth had stored, as well as the plasma cannons and the divinity combatants that they had created. With this, Fang Xinjian became even more interested. It was because the profoundness of the microscopic world that was involved was something that he had not known before. Right now, Fang Xinjian's abilities were mainly focused on the celestial eradication sword formation. The light pursuit, infiltrating void, and all-conquering sword intense had all stepped into the microscopic realm, and each of them had different prowess. However, the strongest was still the illusory art that was developed from the microscopic level of the light pursuit sword technique. It was a pity that once this illusory art was performed, although it was in an undefeatable position, it still lacked some offensive means. When he was dealing with the 2 Guardian Kings and Tiandao, he had to rely on the other party's strength to be able to get rid of them easily. In order to increase his offensive prowess, the celestial eradication sword formation had to reach a deeper level in the microscopic realm. It would be best if he could improve the instant sword as well. The other thing was that after stepping into Tier 5 of the divine level, his martial will had improved once again. After going through the information on the moon's relics, Fang Xinjian's sword arts had gained new accumulations in the microscopic realm. However, there was something special about the moon's relics. Many of the contents on them were things that Earth had yet to discover. According to the information on Earth, all of this information comes from a wordless monument in the moon's relic. That wordless monument is extremely mysterious. Different people will be able to see different kinds of knowledge when they look at it. The more talented one is and the higher one's cultivation is, the more and deeper the knowledge they will be able to see. It's also because of this that the Thunder Monarch was able to create the impasse armor that stands above the entire world. It's a pity that the things that Earth has comprehended from the moon's relics are still not enough for me. I can only make a trip there personally and dig out all of the things on it. Just then, Fang Xinjian's sudden inspiration throbbed slightly. With a flash, he appeared outside the house and saw that the Gold Mage King was already standing outside. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.